You know
I
what?
know. I
You're
just
off.
finished it at that point.
We're kicking you tonight. You're off your game. You didn't even know about
Sweet. All
Schitt's
right. I
Creek
get to
being
go to bed
14
early.
episodes.
Episode 4. The next one we watch will be episode 4.
Okay.
And then I did add that documentary special thing
Mhm.
to the list. So
Yeah, it's pretty good.
they
got.
it's such a. I love David. He's my favorite
Oh,
character.
who doesn't at that
But
point? If
Bob is my favorite townie. Like just the way he's all jolly and stuff. Oh my gosh, I love that guy. He is my favorite townie. And in the late, you've seen it, right? Yeah, you saw it.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
The latest episode that I watched, he was definitely wearing like a motorcycle jacket and motorcycle pants, and I lost it. Oh, such a beautiful thing.
No, I love it that it's a totally family show. They got his daughter, they've got, his son and everything. I originally thought before we got into it, I thought the daughter was actually going to be his daughter. So his daughter is Twyla.
Right.
So
whom I don't know. Twyla is very attractive. I think she's more attractive than Alexis is.
Well, Alexis is supposed to be that like model kind of perfect at that point, which, you either like or you don't.
I can appreciate it, but it's not usually my style.
Yeah.
Such a great
All right. I am good to go whenever you two are.
All right, let me hit record then.
I am recording.
Yep, same here. All right. Let me pull up this. All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from the Mojoverse to the Earth 616 to the Negative Zone to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. My name is the Uncanny Chris.
I'm the podcaster, Mr. Strauss now.
And I'm your friendly neighborhood Brent.
Alliance
Assemble. Boom. Volume 27. We're here. We're joined by, a man. I had to make a deal with somebody to get this man to come back. We had to get him on one more time before.
Doctor Strange? You made a deal with Doctor Strange?
Better that would be a bargain. Other people.
That would be a bargain. I had to make a deal to get this one. I said we need one more day with Brent hosting in 2020.
You've come to strike a bargain with Dormammu.
I'm out.
Brent, how are you doing? It's good to have you back.
I am doing great. It's good to be back. It feels like it's been a while. It feels like it's almost been too long, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, no, I thank you for the times I was gone that you hosted for me twice. You guys did some great shows, and I'm excited to be doing this again, the three-way. So, Chris, how are you doing before we get into we got a bunch of plugs. I'm sure Nathan already has a stopwatch out somewhere.
Well, you got to tweet out the link, or they're not going to know how to get onto it.
Marvel Alliance. Yeah, come on now.
I got to dig it out. Anyways, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thanksgiving break got the rust off at that point after having 5 days off.
Screw you guys for all your food posts. Like, I know in Canada we already had our Thanksgiving, but like I was like, oh my goodness, I can't wait for Christmas to have an excuse to eat all that food.
No, I'm about 95% done with my Christmas shopping. Found some personal good deals and some
Holy cow.
Oh yeah, I don't fool around with that. I get that stuff done.
I'm maybe 5% done with my Christmas shopping.
Well, at the same time, I said, ooh, there's some good deals and some collected editions. I'll grab that at 70% off. I'll grab that at 80% off. So.
When you at one point, I swear, you said you were gonna like stop buying a bunch of big physical things, but when does the actual cutoff? Because every time we talk, almost every week, there's more added to the list. So I don't. You say eventually, but I don't know if we're ever gonna hit that point. I don't know.
That's why I say like sometime next year. We'll say sometime next year. Keeps on moving further.
You got to be willing to pull that Band-Aid, man.
All right. I've definitely scaled back on what I used to, because now I've gotten most of the old stuff I've wanted to get, and now it's like, yeah, I'm going to keep moving away from Marvel now that they did that 3-month subscription. So I mean, the 3 months getting live on there, so that's definitely helping me move it along.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Ladies and
latest
gentlemen,
minute mark finished, and I canceled my subscription after that. Not because I don't love it, but because I'm going unlimited. I'm moving everything to it. Unlike you, I'm actually doing it.
I know.
Oh, wow.
That's okay. I'll take the shade. I'll own it at that point.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as always, you can find this show on Wednesdays, live on Tuesdays, Geek Ultimate Alliance. But to start at the beginning of the week, Monday, Chris, we have World's Finest True Believers. What were you guys talking about this Monday?
We got Katie joining me for her very first comic she's ever read, and we got to keep it on brand with Star Wars. So we did Star Wars Dark Empire 1.
Very fitting, too. I feel like with lots of chatter about legends going on right now and canon and stuff, right? You know, so that was very nicely timed. So that's good. So you can check that out. That episode.
I like that.
Yeah, check out DC Alliance. That dropped today if you're listening live, but if not, Tuesdays. Every Tuesday, it's Greg and Travis talking about a bunch of stuff in DC. I cannot wait for next Tuesday to hear about Travis talking about this Diggle news. I saw that. I was like, you know what? Finally, at least like some sort of good shine for you, Travis, and you, Brent, because you guys have had a couple.
I needed that. I needed that.
I'll just say detours lately. And as I mentioned, Wednesday is us. Thursday is either Slice of Film or Ranger Alliance. This week, Katie, again, talking about another first. It's her first time watching Superman, the movie. So that's going to be very interesting, especially that's quite an old movie. So for her to be seeing that the first time, that'll be a good one. Ranger Alliance dropped a new episode last week. They either go through the entire show right now or they're reading the current comics that just did a relaunch. Friday Superhero Discussions, the show that I am scared to listen to every week because Greg and Travis are just, they're harder than I thought they'd be on Batman the Animated Series. I get it for some of them. I'm still mad about Christmas with Joker, but it's fine. It's Greg's first time watching Batman the Animated Series. Then on Friday night on YouTube, you can check out Super Civil Servants Live. They are back this week. You guys talking about Star Trek Into Darkness. And then you can catch the audio on Saturday. And then Saturday and Sunday, Weird Science Comics at the Marvel DC. They do the entire roundup. And just thank everybody that listened because we had it's been 6 months and they've been bigger than each. So I thank you guys for spreading the love and listening to it. It's been fun. We're in our 6-month anniversary and it's been a good time. You head over Patreon, you get an ad-free feed, you get exclusive episodes, early episodes. I don't want to announce what we have yet, but we are working on something kind of with multi people from the network that'll be on there if it can record. It's just fun trying to schedule 6 to 7 people to be free for the same day, so that's right. But it's going to happen. Go ahead.
What about that plant show that Nathan keeps talking about?
Well, between him and Greg, even Greg yesterday, I swear I've talked to him. He's like, I think there's more coming. No, there's nothing for the foreseeable future coming. So Greg, stop saying that. I know you might think there's something. He's trying to put something out there, maybe eventually down the line, but nothing. And Nathan, if you're listening to this, I get it, but you know what? You don't got to tell the listeners every time to skip the ads. What happens if one day our people tune in and they're like, you got a host on here telling them to skip the ads? No, that's why you go to Patreon and support us there, because if you listen to the ads, you also support this show. So that's everything, I think. But yeah, those two, those super civil servant guys, my goodness, make my hair gray. So
when you get it back,
when it all grows back, I'll just be like Raiden from Mortal Kombat. But
lightning included, that would be pretty awesome.
I wish, but yeah, we got lighter stuff today, but with some good stuff talked about.
Yeah, we'll start off with we were like saying, oh God, it's going to be a really light week. And then the head of the direct started hinting a couple days ago saying something big coming from exclusive for the direct, and said, what's coming tomorrow? And we were all like, someone's going to scoop them if they don't release it now.
Announcing you have a scoop is not a good thing to do if you're trying to be a scooper. I think there's enough little signs for other scoopers, because many like smaller scoopers have said that they have something, and then a big scooper kind of picks up on that, and then they go to their source, and then kind of one thing leads to another, and they get it for their own. So I was surprised, like, yeah, we're doing it tomorrow. It's like, don't do that. Don't just put it out there.
Don't rub the other people's noses in it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the direct had gotten an exclusive around Marvel's Hawkeye and Black Widow. Florence Pugh joins Jeremy Renner's Disney Plus series. So this is an exclusive for them. She is currently co-starring in Black Widow. We'll talk about whenever that's coming out. And as the assassin Yelena Belova, and will apparently reprise her role in Hawkeye on Disney Plus. The direct has exclusively learned. Although the full extent of her role is currently unknown, their source indicates that Yelena will don a Ronin-inspired costume, similar to one that Clint Barton wore in Avengers Endgame at one point in the series. They don't know exactly the extent of her role. It could be her joining into a mission. It could be a much longer extent. However, we've talked about before with the rooming casting call for an actress to play Echo. Echo in the comics at one point had been known to wear the Ronin costume as well. So this looks to be moving moving the costume around a little bit. Could she not be Black Widow at one point and take on the Ronin thing, or vice versa, or use both? There's a lot of questions at this point, but also, again, more revelations, more plot spoilers for Black Widow. What's left of this movie whenever it comes out.
No
but,
joke.
But to add it, and I know some people on some of our brothers are not fans of this scooper, but Grace Randolph added to this later on saying she can confirm that she is in Hawkeye. Thanks, Grace. And she is also in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is why Falcon and the Winter Soldier has to come out after Black Widow. So
yeah, I don't know.
She cannot not be left out. Grace. So.
That's true. I'm still waiting for them to tell us that Wonder Woman 1984 is that Flashpoint reboot, but I'll whatever. Yeah, that makes sense to me. We've talked about this, that there has to be some key reason why Falcon Winter Soldier has not, like, obviously they had to finish shooting whatnot, but there's not been a date. December 10th may change that, but I always thought that there is something big that they can't rework. It's not like an end credit scene where, we'll move this here, move that there. I think it was, if Yelena appears in it, that's a big thing. And I've heard some speculation before too, that people have kind of thought, and myself, like, Bucky could be your person to lead a Thunderbolt. Some people have thrown out her name as a possible leader of that. And it's great. Again, to say the positive stuff first before I get the negative stuff, is Florence Pugh is a great actress. It's strange, but I'm doing a top 10 actors and actresses in the world right now. She's either 2 or 3. I'm trying to decide right now. Lupita's my number 1. Oh yeah. She's fantastic. Lupita Nyong'o is my number 1.
I want to hear reasons behind that when you finally do talk about it. I'm not saying she's not. I'm just that's very impressive.
That's high praise for sure.
Yeah, Midsommar, and then when you can be an almost 30-year-old woman and have to play a 12-year-old, make it convincing, you're a pretty good actress, and it does not seem cheesy or like kind of funny. So I trust her. So it's all great. All this stuff of her sticking around is great. I think it's just kind of what we talked about a few weeks ago. I'm just over all this stuff, and it's not, I would understand if, like, okay, this did come from scoopers, I get it, but the problem is it's because they're filming Falcon Winter Soldier and they're filming Hawkeye, so this stuff is bound to come out. If they weren't filming this stuff and the movie was already out, we would kind of, that's not a big spoiler. But, and like, Chris, you're not alone. Many people have said she was going to live and survive and go on, so I get that. Lots of people are like, we knew that, but it's like, we didn't know it, and that's my thing of now, like, we pretty much, like, Thunderbolts are going to be.
Brent totally knew. He called it at the beginning.
Yeah.
I would have bet a very large sum of money on that. Let's put it that way.
He's about to scoop it, but there's still, like, I didn't want to fully know. It's just, that's the thing where the way I could compare it is with Game of Thrones. In the middle of the series, I stopped watching it weekly. I started watching it 2 to 3 episodes, and if I saw spoilers, it's like, well, that was my bad because I'm not caught up. This is not my bad. This is like, because they're filming other shows, we're getting spoiled on this. And it's just, with Thunderbolts, we already know Natasha's fate. We've already had the Taskmaster actor been like, we may have been a romantic item in the past. There's like, now Yelena's alive. It's just like, every week it's more and more of like, we just, obviously we don't know. And my friend Taylor would always slap me in the face and say, it's about the journey, Travis. I get it. I know what people say about prequels. I understand, but it's just,
that's why I didn't use that excuse on you later when you were poo-pooing it all at that point. I said, I already know it's come back to that.
There's just a point of just like, I didn't want to know everything. And like, now anytime Yelena's in danger, there was still that thought of, we could lose her, even though like you guys are in the camp that she was going to be our new Black Widow. There's still a chance that they could have pulled the rug from under us and killed her. And, oh wow, that was a red herring and Black Widow was actually done. Now it's like, no, we know no matter what happens, whether she gets snapped, whether she goes in prison, whether she's on a mission, she's alive, and I don't like it. And I wish we would get this movie sooner than May. I don't know. I guess it all depends. Maybe let's see what happens with Wonder Woman. But Brent, what is your take on all this?
This is really a COVID casualty. It's just another thing that more and more scoops are going to come out, because I'd have to do some fact checking, but quite possibly for the first time, like, this is like the longest lead they've had with filmed, produced footage, with content that's in the can ready to go. And because of that, like, yeah, we would have seen Black Widow I mean, we'd already it'd be out on home release. It'd be on Disney Plus by now. You know,
Yeah.
we would have already seen Eternals by now, pre-COVID. So a scoop like this coming out, we would just say, okay, that makes sense because we see where she ended up. Oh, well, she's alive, obviously, because everyone knows that. We would have known. Like, this wouldn't be that big a deal. I assumed she would live, so I'm not that upset that I now know she will live. But all joking aside, I really do wish I didn't know it yet. I wish that they had the opportunity to tell their story. And, you know, part of it, they do have the opportunity. Not the way they want it on the big screen necessarily, but they do have. So I got to put just a little bit of fault at whoever made these decisions to Feige or Bob Chapek or whoever's like signing off on like Disney Plus or not. I got to put a little bit of fault on them for these kind of scoops coming out. I mean, I'm glad she's going to be around because she is a good actress. So yeah, that's great. I wish I didn't know. I wish I didn't know.
No, I think you do bring a point because I mean, yeah, we knew, but to your point, you know, it's one of those things that we want to experience it. I'm not, you know, there are going to be some things in the movie that we don't see coming, and you know, I'm on the camp that's saying, yeah, I want to see how it happens, but now I'm going to be looking out for, oh, when is this part going to go? When is this part going to go? So
yeah, it's like when you see a trailer that shows everything, you start to place. That was one of my biggest problems with the Spider-Man Homecoming trailer. Yeah, is you could place exactly what was going to happen, and that's my worry of this. Is not trailers. Like you say, oh, I'm sure there'll be some surprises, and you're right. I'm sure there will be, but it's almost like we still have till May of next year. So it's like by the time we get there, there might not be that many surprises. Like if Thunderbolts is like, let's say they always do one comedic end credit and one big end credit. If their big end credit thing is just Thunderbolt Ross being like, I'm putting together a team, it's like, well, that's not big because we all knew this now, you know? So that's my worry of like, what could those big things still be if we like, I'm hoping, but it's just, we still have so much long to go.
We talked offline the last couple of days when this broke about, you know, how much we know about this movie. I think to your point, Brent, this movie, just like Wonder Woman, was a huge casualty of COVID in the sense of how much was already planned that they could, if they really wanted to, they could have stopped the parts moving. But I'll play a little devil's advocate. They said they kind of understood this virus of how bad it was going to be. No one really understood how bad it was going to be and how people were going to react. So that aside, that Black Widow was done in the can, ready to go. Shang-Chi, Eternals, Falcon and Winter Soldier, they all at some point have production shut down and have to stop at that point. So they at least, hopefully, they have majorly learned what not to do, how to keep this as much stuff internally as possible to not have half, if not 90% of your secrets about and plot points coming out at this point. So that's my hope. But I think just like Wonder Woman, they got completely caught off guard, and some reason they either didn't or couldn't stop the ball from rolling.
And that's the thing, like, I guess I can fully admit that this is only hurting, I think, excitement for people in our group because my mom's not going to know Yelena's making it to, you know, Hawkeye or anything. Like the mainstream audience.
She's not a frequent listener of the show?
No, she's not. She's listened like twice, and that was about it. You know, I think she's probably giving me one of the negative reviews. No, I'm joking.
You're grounded.
I think, yeah, exactly. 1 star, and like, oh, thanks, Mom. There goes my algorithm. But no, I understand that. Let's say if it was reversed, right? Like Wonder Woman wasn't coming out Christmas, it was Black Widow. The majority of people that are buying that wouldn't know all these details that we do. So I know I'm not trying to be Chicken Little and say the sky is falling. It's just more a personal, and I think people in our group is like, we all have talked about how it's nice that Wonder Woman is coming out because it had that fatigue of I'm not even that excited. Even like I said, when I saw Tenet, I wasn't even that excited at that point because it just was. It got delayed a few times. It didn't even feel like I was seeing it. And then once I saw it, I was sitting there. It was different and weird. So that's where it's nice to get Wonder Woman. And with Black Widow, I think majority of people won't know this big stuff. But for me, I just worry of like we still have till May, and that's still almost another 6 months or so to go. And it's just I hope not more comes out. And that's why, as I've said before, I'm just much more excited for a WandaVision or Loki or What If, because those like Doctor Strange hasn't filmed yet, and hopefully nothing gets spoiled there. But I'm way more excited for WandaVision than I am Black Widow. Also because I'm interested in to see their first TV show, but just because we have some ideas that something might happen to Wanda, create some sort of universe, but we don't know. We don't know she may be the antagonist. We don't know if Vision will live. Maybe she's not the antagonist in Doctor Strange. We don't know all this stuff. Where with Black Widow, we are starting to be able to lay that path of, like you said, Chris, you have all the puzzle pieces. You may be missing a few, but you can see the general picture of it. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope when we get, hopefully earlier, but I hope when we get to May and I see it and I'm blown away, and I'm sure I will still enjoy the movie, but I'm just a little less excited with each week carrying on. And it's kind of because of these leaks. And like you guys said, it is an unfortunate thing. It's not like they were being careless. They didn't know what was going to happen with COVID. And
well, bringing up what you said about WandaVision, that's their first, hey, most of this has kind of been done.
Yeah.
And so now we're seeing it is our test case. It's like, this is the Disney and Marvel that we're used to. They had the big expose in EW. Then they just had another one in Empire right before release, get a few more details out, Feige going out and dropping a few hints here or there. That's the Marvel rollout that we're used to with the films. So it's at least if this is them getting back on track, that's a good sign.
Clay said something in the YouTube chat. Watched YouTube live every Tuesday. He said that he hopes the date changes at the investors call. I want to ask you, Brent, because me and Chris talked about this a little bit. Do you think the date change could happen before we see what happens with Wonder Woman? Because that's where I feel like I'm in the camp that I think that is another tester where they sit back and wait. I don't, and especially too, the date change maybe, but the other thing they have is Soul to test out as well. So you have Soul, one of their own products to test out Christmas Day, and then you have Wonder Woman, much more bigger than Soul, but still it's another franchise going on this theatrical / streaming. Do you think if there were a date change, we hear about it at all in 2020?
Remind me to come back to something you said about the casuals, but to answer that question and to contradict myself when I said part of why these leaks coming out is actually at the fault of the people who've kept it off Disney Plus today, with the scenario we're in today, December 2020. No, I think it would be nuts if they did change the date right now, because as you just said, they have Soul, but a couple weeks after Soul, 3 weeks after Soul basically is WandaVision, right?
Oh, yeah.
When are they going to when would they put it out? Like, they gain nothing by saying it's coming out in March. Okay, big deal. They gain nothing by saying it's coming out in February, because now they're going to take away from WandaVision. And part of why you do it is you don't want to, there was the rumors and stuff and the source code pointing at November 27th as a possible launch date for WandaVision. A big thing everyone questioned was the overlap with The Mandalorian, because why overlap your top tier original content? Well, same rule applies here. You're not going to want Black Widow out at the same time WandaVision has new episodes dropping. So if the earliest possible time for them to drop it is post WandaVision, why say anything about it now? So honestly, the only dates I think we might, maybe Falcon and the Winter Soldier gets a date, but it probably is also post Black Widow. And frankly, I don't think they should give it one either. If anything, coming out of this investor call, I'm not expecting very much from Marvel. I'm just not. I think we're going to get some Star Wars info, but I'm not expecting a lot on the Marvel side.
I'm expecting we could get like some official, my goodness, official confirmation of like a Haley Steinfeld or someone like that. But
good point.
I think it'll be small stuff like
official.
that.
Okay, official.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like officially someone saying that, or like, oh, we're very excited for Oscar Isaac to be a part of blah, blah, blah. I agree that I think the only thing we could get a date on is maybe What If or Loki. But sorry, Chris, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen what was our first, how much before did we start getting the hints of possibly WandaVision dropping in November, December? I think that was around October.
It was Super Bowl time. Well, actually, not Super Bowl
I'm talking
time.
about
no Emmys. It was September.
Okay, so end of September, beginning of October at that point. So that's where we start getting our hints at that point. So yeah, I'm with Brent. I don't see them. There's no reason to. They need to see what happens with Wonder Woman 84. I think Soul is a test case, but again, it's the same thing I said about Mulan. You can't compare the two. It's totally different. They're going to be very much watching how this rollout with Wonder Woman 84 is going to be, with that 30-day before it goes straight back to theaters fully on VOD later on at that point. And again, Disney's has long pulled the freeze trial at that point. So they don't have that kind of on their back to see exactly if that's gonna be a problem for them. So I think the investor call that we're gonna get is, I think maybe some minor updates with Marvel, some little teases here or there. Finally, maybe a date for What If. I would love to see that finally. I think that's probably our next one after WandaVision. I think that's the one that's ready next in the can. And I think that doesn't cost them anything to put that in between what'll be, after WandaVision, right before maybe Black Widow.
And it doesn't affect anything canon wise.
Exactly.
As far as what, it's not like, oh, we got to make sure this goes and blah, blah, blah. But Brent, you said earlier you wanted to say something about the casuals, like the casual viewer we were talking about.
Yeah, you brought up like your mom not knowing that she's going to, like, Lena's going to survive, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about it, I was like, no, like my wife won't know that she's going to survive. And then I started thinking about Spider-Man Far From Home. If you're listening to this show, you knew Mysterio was a bad guy.
Yeah.
But if you were in the GA, you didn't know. Like, people like to mock and make fun of them. Oh, imagine not knowing Mysterio was a bad guy. It's like, yeah, a lot of people did not know Mysterio was a bad guy
A lot of people
because
don't
he
know who
hasn't.
Mysterio even was.
Right. Like, he hasn't. He's one of the oldest comic villains for Spider-Man, but he hasn't, broken out. He's never been in another movie or anything like that. We've seen him in animation and comics, and that's it. And I think so, like, for us who follow this news and like every day we're looking at it, every link we're clicking on, it kind of stinks, but that comes with the territory of just being as interested in this to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, good point. I completely agree. So it's interesting. Well, we'll see. I can't wait to see next week what other news we get out of Black Widow.
I'd be very. I was kind of surprised at this one, but one thing I'll mention about like the the Ronin getup. This might be, Red Guardian was put down the Ronin outfit for a little bit, so maybe this is their.
He's leading the Deadpool now.
Now
that the widows are going to be alive, he's
no. I'm not saying they're going to depict that, but I'm just saying in the comics he wore the Ronin stuff, so maybe this is their tip. This is their tip of the hat. No, yeah, Red Guardian's definitely, you're right, on the Deadpool list.
He's not the one surviving now.
No, absolutely not. We're gonna get that teary-eyed thing saying, "I'm sorry, I never reconnected with you.
You were my father."
Yeah. So okay, you brought up a good point that as far as we actually haven't even discussed her being in Hawkeye, and I think that is it. So I'll put my saltiness aside. Like, okay, so I know she's alive. Great.
So keep the saltiness. We enjoy that.
I'll set it aside for a little bit, and then I'll bring it back for the next story. No, I don't know. So what has happening is she's going to be in the show. I don't think that much. I would say maybe an episode. It's kind of like we've seen with Mandalorian lately, where it's the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda show. I know there's a name out there. I just don't want to say anything just in case, but whatever.
Oh, stop. It's
Bro,
don't. You said it. I wouldn't have said it. You just ruined it for somebody.
Ooh, he said it? I missed it. He said
I'm going to get some tweet. I can edit it in post. No, but what happens is Mandalorian, it's so far I've seen like it's him, and then there's some episodes where it's just like him on Avengers, but it's him with special guests, and I think the Hawkeye show could be that, as far as we don't know Echo's role, but we have Echo. We have Kate Bishop, who will probably be more of a main character, but then if you have Yelena, I wouldn't be surprised if Scarlett Johansson even has some scenes in the show via flashback, not being alive. If it comes up that Black Widow also is somehow brought back at the end credit scene of that, oh my goodness, I'm going to be livid. But I think that it makes sense. It's going to be, obviously, she's going to have heard of this person that was her closest ally in the Avengers clan. You would imagine, even though it's going to be Star Wars, like, Luke, you're the last Jedi in Return of the Jedi. No, there's 50,000 of them. You're not the last one all. You're not special anymore. Same thing as Clint, never once mentioned Elena. I'm sure he's known about her the whole time, but maybe, who knows? It's like his like she knew about his family, right? Like the whole farmhouse, everything like that. So I think in turn he would know about her past. He already knows about it as far as the ledger and stuff like that expression. So I think it's good. I think it's a good kind of closing out thing too, because you still have some people not happy with Black Widow's finale in Endgame. So I think it makes sense that she'll be there. I think it could be, I don't know, because if she's donning the Ronin gear, I wonder if she's donning that and he sees that and that makes her go hunt her down. And it's kind of what my pitch has been for Thor. So that's why it might not happen. I think it's one or the other. But my pitch for Thor Love and Thunder is he's off in space. He hears about a Midgard. Someone has a hammer, Mjolnir. He goes back to investigate. I could see something similar happening in this scenario where he hears someone has the Ronin. and that's not him. That brings up flashbacks of the past because they said we would deal with that. So I think it's a good connection to the show, and I think she's a good addition if it is happening.
Yeah, and officially as of tomorrow, according to The Verge, they begin production in New York. So we're probably going to start seeing a lot of set photos coming out of that. So we'll probably get a little more hints of what's to come. I mean, then you get Haley Steinfeld again posting on Instagram and the little arrow symbol, and then you got your showrunners doing little purple hearts at that point, and worst kept secret right now.
I hope at this point she's not Kate Bishop, just for all us to be like, oh, what the heck happened? But no, I actually do hope she is. She's great.
That'd be the biggest shock and saying, oh my gosh, come on, now she's just trolling us.
Dead one scene. First scene, it's Kate Bishop, like they Jimmy Olsen her from BVS. It's like it's okay, Clint, and then she gets shot, and it's like, oh, there goes Kate.
Well, if they do that, they'll never name her, so they won't say they're going to.
Is that everything on that story then?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, we'll see what production starts. We'll see if we finally get some Steinfeld on set and get a confirmation. We had mentioned the investors call. Travis and I talked about what we're probably going to do next week with the investors calls. We'll still do a normal show.
That's next week.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
we'll do a normal show at that point, and then depending on what's revealed with the investors call, we may drop a emergency half episode, similar to what we've done before with DC Alliance at that point. So I know I'll be trying to listen at that point since I'm an investor technically. Back with us?
I am. I just had to take off sweater. I didn't freeze or anything.
Oh no, I was just making sure you were adjusting yourself. You were getting naked there for a second.
No. It's just it's
this show just changed.
Monetization out the window, but no, I'm excited.
Put the money in the thing. Put it back on. Put it back on.
I agree with Brent that kind of thinking about everything that I don't think we'll get much Marvel, but you never know, and that's why you could do a quick emergency one if there's some sort of show announced date change. You never know, but hopefully
She-Hulk is really Allison Brie.
Oh man,
that would be awesome.
We're all giving Tatiana crap for no reason.
She's like, She's told lying. You, no one believed me.
Yeah.
Deadline sources go out the window saying, "All right, fine, we're wrong. We'll never trust our source again."
Nah, they'll still argue.
Yep. All right, you want to take us to our first ad break?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Nathan, here you go. Here's an ad break just for you. But this helps support the channel. It all depends on your podcatcher. Sometimes they're a little loud. We don't choose the ads, but this is going to be an ad break that helps grow the channel. As I said before, you go to Patreon and get the ad-free feed, but I'm about to throw to it in 3, 2, 1. And we're already back. Look at that. Very quick. And we're going to talk about believing. Now we have to talk about if we believe this story, because we don't know exactly what's going on in this movie, but we've heard a lot about it, Chris.
Yes. So we all remember Raimi's Spider-Man 3 and the complaints of too many villains. Well, we might be talking about that right now, depending on how big of a role we've got. So far we have unconfirmed, except by the actor Jamie Foxx, saying we're playing Electro. We've heard lots, but not Blue Electro. So we'll go with that. We've heard a lot of these rumors of a goblin of some sort coming in through the portal. And now we have coming from the GWW saying for Geeks Worldwide, saying that their source has told them that Alfred Molina is rumored to return as Doc Ock in the upcoming Spider-Man 3. According to their source, he has recently arrived on set to practice stunt choreography and has been shooting scenes for the film for the past few weeks. Source assured us that it is in full Doc Ock mode, but couldn't confirm which version he is in. Are we in Sammy Spider-Man 2 or a completely new one? So, I found it interesting. They dug out a quote from Collider back in 2014 when asked would he return to the role. He said, "That was the most fun I've ever had in a movie because I'd never done something like that before. So basic, had a wonderful time. Would love to do it again." So I love Alfred Molina as an actor, dating way back to his beginning, a little bit part in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and so he's a great actor. This was definitely a stretch for him, but I think he did a fabulous job as Doc Ock with the script that was given to him. I think him as an actor, I think the thing about the Raimi movies is that it leaned into the cheese at that point, but I think out of that is a bit. We'll I'm not talking about Spider-Man 3 and the dance moves. I'm just saying, that's what he's good at that. But I really think one of the shining parts of that movie was the character of Doc Ock. I think he definitely, and if he is coming back, great. But I know your worry is my worry. Are we getting too many villains? Are we getting too many moving parts and cameos or people in this?
Well, that's what I said to you is when we got this news was it was met with excitement, but then it felt like an hour later it was like, oh, what's going on? There's so much. Now, I do want to point out, I trust MCU with everything because after Endgame, you could easily make the case that
Thank you. I'm like, too many characters. They had like 3,000 characters in that movie.
So I understand I understand both arguments because
yes, I will agree with you, Brent.
They can show that, hey, we can juggle so much, but then I do understand the point of people going like, you don't want it to be not Tom Holland's movie, right? And especially there's some people that aren't a fan of, not even that they don't like Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, they just don't want them in because it's just like, we want to be about this Spider-Man that might overshadow him. And
now that is fair.
Yeah, so I've seen like a lot of, I think with all these characters getting added, I think a lot of people worry like, oh, is it just going to be a best of Spider-Man movie and not about our new Peter's MCU Peter, his journey, right? And I do kind of get it. I think I'm excited for him to return. I always thought it would be though him or Green Goblin. So I feel like I could be wrong, but I feel like if it's just him, maybe Green Goblin fell through because to me, Willem Dafoe doesn't strike me as the type of actor. I know he's in Aquaman, not a huge role, but it doesn't strike me as an actor who would maybe come in just for a scene or two as a cameo. I could be wrong, but it's just, especially with the stuff he's doing right now. But I'm interested in it. It's the same thing like you brought up. I just don't know, are they playing these versions of the Raimi character? Because at that point, they would be, but then it's like their arcs, like especially if Goblin's in it too, their arcs were pretty closed off and both of them ended in death, so it's kind of, do they get plucked in the middle of their adventure? Is this like now it's like oh, this is Tobey Maguire's but a what if situation? So I can't see that. And I do wonder with all these bosses, are we going to get almost like a video game where he goes into a separate world each time and it's like facing off against somebody? I'm excited to see him. I'm probably in the vast minority of I like Spider-Man 1 better than Spider-Man 2 just because I like the dynamic with Norman. I think it's one of the best origin stories. I think Spider-Man 2 is just Spider-Man 1 done better. I also think Doc Ock is great as an act, like he did great performance, but the character is very thin as far as like his reason for turning evil and turning back to good. So that's where I'm always in the Norman camp. I'm excited to see him back. I don't think it's too much, but I am starting to wonder of like, I wonder because we also got Doctor Strange in here, and then the other thing I do want to point out that some people, it's again more C tier scoopers that point out like don't expect Maguire and Garfield if they are in this to be in a lot. I'm fine with. I'm expecting Civil War style, that screen time of they come and save the day or give them some information. So I understand the concern, and maybe I even have a little bit of it too. But I am excited to see him again. I'm just excited to see all this multiverse stuff if it is true.
I don't want Holland to be overshadowed. I do want the third MCU Spider-Man story, but I don't know. I can't help but be excited at this prospect. I mean, there's regardless of which one you like better, one or two. I mean, who doesn't at least love those Spider-Man movies? And sure, I've got my issues with them too. I mean, everyone's got issues with them, but that doesn't mean in general I don't love those movies. I saw Spider-Man 2 with my wife on her first date. Her idea, for the record. It's
nice. Yeah. You knew you got to catch.
Well, she stuck around, so it worked out. I am not opposed to this at all. Given the choice, forget everything else. Okay, sure, sign me up. I would rather take Green Goblin because as big of a villain as Dr. Octopus is, Green Goblin is like the Spider-Man villain. Like that is his Joker. That is his Lex Luthor or whatever. I don't know. I'm my biggest concern with all of these rumors, if they're all true, is I don't want to somehow, all joking aside, magic away and blow past the identity reveal. There are ways to do it. Like, Talos is out there with the scrolls. He could easily come in and shapeshift and be Peter. So Spider-Man can do Spider-Man things. and put them together on screen or whatever. Like there's ways to get around it, but I want to see that story. I'm really hoping that this next one doesn't pick up months or years down the line, but rather it picks up minutes after where the last one ended. That's what I don't want to lose out on. But yeah, if you're telling me there is even the slightest chance that I'm going to get to see multiple live action Spider-Mans together, yes, absolutely yes. Spider-Verse has been a thing in comics and animation and now in movies with the animated Miles Morales movie for the last several years. Like they've really been pushing it. Let's take it to the ultimate level and get it on live action movies. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I think to respond to your yes, they did it in Avengers, but I'll counter that and saying, well, that's an Avengers movie at that point. It's kind of where they were building it up to. We want with Spider-Man to kind of this is going to be the biggest thing if all this is coming together and all it is true. This takes the movies that have been so focused on Peter and his growth to like a whole like we're swinging for the fences on this one. If we're bringing in all these different characters at that point. If I trust anyone, it's going to be Feige and the MCU to do it right. So I'm not worried in that sense. And again, they're definitely not I always thought, and I just bring up the whole idea of too many villains. I don't think that was the biggest problem with that movie.
No.
There were other issues. There were other issues with that movie besides, we're doing 3 villains. I didn't think that was the biggest problem with that movie. I just kind of said, that's your problem? The 3 villains? Okay, well.
It did help for sure. Like it didn't help because it was one of these that, Raimi didn't want one of the villains. And I will always say that I very much like Sandman, but I never understood his inclusion as the whole trilogy was leading up to Harry versus Peter. It was right there for Harry to become Hobgoblin or something, and they dispatch of him in the first 15 minutes, and they give him this soap opera memory loss. And like you said, it's not just the 3 villains; it's just what they did inside all those.
Yeah.
When Stacy's in there and just a terrible role. I love Bryce Dallas Howard, but there's just they literally have 3 love triangles in that film. So it's quite impressive feat for a film to do in itself. But what I was going to ask you guys is, do you think these characters like the Toby and Andrew, I think, are different because that leaves the door open, but these villains is this to he goes through a universe, fights a bad guy, then leaves and that's it? Or is this to supplant these actors / characters in these movies potentially? Like a Alfred now is stuck in our MCU as Doc Ock, which I love when they're like, he showed up for stunt training. I know what they mean. Like he has to learn the scenes, but it's just like, he has 4 arms, CGI arm. Like he didn't have to do anything other than like his training shouldn't be that severe.
They make you a spider. There you go. Yeah.
Like, I get what they mean. Like, okay, choreograph this, but it's like when it's like he's there for training, it's like he's not Tom Holland doing backflips and holding the rope. It's like he is the easiest.
Look at the green ball. Look at the green ball.
Yeah, but what do you guys think? Do you think that is like? Do you think these are just appearances in a movie, or do you think this is to incorporate them into a later film down the line? Or obviously people always talk about Sinister Six and stuff like that. So what do you feel about that, Brent?
If we're going the J.K. Simmons route and it's the same character but a different incarnation, I think we'll see them be on this movie. Mm-hmm. If it's the Michael Keaton route, reprising the same role, and yes, I realize that Keaton is going to have multiple appearances. I don't, as Batman, I don't necessarily think we're in for like several versions of Dr. Octopus. Like I don't think we're going to see him a whole bunch of times. I'm maybe twice, maybe like I mean, this is definitely a good, easy way. Well, easy, questionable. A good way to shortcut your way to a Sinister Six that does have some nostalgia almost with the audience, because they're going to remember this Dr. Octopus, for example. And so they can use that and incorporate him into it, and use Electro and incorporate him into it. And it is kind of a good way to get to that, where they don't have to they don't have to fully establish these characters, especially if they are the same versions, because they've been established. If they're new incarnations of previous characters, they still don't need the full establishment treatment. So I don't know, my hunch is this is a one-off, but I don't know. I'm still just kind of thinking I want to see Spider-Man versus the Sinister Six, not Sinister Six by itself. Just to be clear, Sony, not that by itself. Nobody wants that. But I want to see Spider-Man versus, and just the thought of Spider-Man versus the Sinister Six, little 3-on-6. That sounds pretty awesome.
You got my spider sense tingling there.
Fanboy Clay said, "What if it's like the Deadpool X-Men scene where he's like going through portals and stuff like that? As far as seeing these other characters, and you could, I do picture that as those could be small set pieces of boom boom, seeing like okay he drops in the Raimi movie, but I think they might be a little longer than that. And
I hope so.
Travis Hines just had to point out that Defoe's going to be in the Snyder Cut. I know they
but
filmed
that's
this
already
years
been
ago.
filmed. That's not going to have anything to do with
he didn't come
this.
back.
Yeah, and it's like that was leading to him being in a movie. My thing is I just don't know Defoe with the movies he's been doing. I think he would, if he would agree, I feel like he'd be like, yeah, but I want to do more of these. I just don't know if he's going to take, because people have speculated, that's been some of these rumors that it might be Goblin, but just the suit of Goblin, which is going to be funny because I know people hate that suit.
Yeah, let's skip the Power Ranger suit.
I don't mind the suit, but the thing is, if you're trying to do the whole from Raimi universe, you have to use that suit, right?
You do.
If you don't have Defoe, especially, you just have to get Defoe semi-actor, voice acting sound like that, and
they
then
could do such a good Goblin now. Like think of Corvus Glaive in Endgame and Infinity War, something along those lines. Maybe a little more purple, a little more green. They could totally do a great Goblin now too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I hope like what Clay was saying, I hope it's a bit longer though than those just kind of popping in and out. But you could I would like that for like other smaller cameos, as far as like I don't know, like one I would like is if it would really break the fourth wall, but I'd like if he went into like Spider-Verse for a second, like that for a second. I don't know, they might say that for Spider-Verse, but I think you could do some comedic scenes like that. But some of these bigger villains, I wouldn't want just him dropping the bank vault and like an arm comes and he's like, whoa, that was close, and Melina's like, oh, Butterfingers, and then then they move off, and it's like, okay.
Well, I think a lot of the quote unquote concern and either alarmist clickbaity articles and to the point is just like, again, they're holding a lot of cards to the chest on this. Like, we don't know a title. We're seeing all these rumors come up. We're seeing all this stuff at that point. So on the opposite side of, it's just at some point Disney's going to get in front of this and say, okay, here's her title. Here's a plot, like a very brief plot point at that point. Because supposedly sometime here's at least 2 cents of that, because we're supposedly, according to the people in the know, we're supposed to be getting some sort of teaser this month. I'll believe it when it finally happens.
I agree. Yeah, because I think it was like before Rise of Skywalker, Kathleen Kennedy was like, and we're going to be announcing like a new Star Wars film. And that never happened. And it wasn't the Taika one. It was something completely different. So it's like they can say that, but then easily like no one knew about that than us. So I'm saying with you, I'll believe it when I see this actual teaser or trailer or poster or just title drop. I hope we get it, because I'm tired of calling it Spider-Man 3 but not the Raimi one. Like I want like a title for it.
Don't talk to the people in the Atlanta school system. They're pretty ticked off about them Spidey getting to go to school and they can't.
Yeah, well, that's a story. It's so weird. You can't use your school, not because of coronavirus, but we got to make a movie. It's a little weird.
And the amount of money that they're getting for it is like, it's not even it's a big amount for a school system, but I mean, come on, you could have given them a lot more than what you are giving them. I think it was like $1,500 also a day for using this. I was like, oh my gosh,
$1,500
a day.
I think
I saw the number 50K somewhere, but regardless,
that's what they are getting, like a lump sum. But I think like $1,500 a day for just the shooting at that point. I was like, yeah, geez, I would have seriously held out for a little bit more.
I mean, yeah, they could have got more.
Here's $50,000 to help with your coronavirus needs. Thanks, Marvel. Appreciate it, Disney.
Yeah, what a story.
I couldn't believe it when
anything else on Doc Ock or Spider-Man 3, Home Invasion?
No, we'll see what the next Spidey's coming out, and what other villains are going to join into this. Maybe we'll finally get.
Well, I just want to point out, Fanboy Clay was saying that he was talking about how do you say his last name, Ross Marquardt or whatnot, who played Red Skull.
I think.
Yeah, Marquardt. But like when he's saying like if he can sound like Defoe's Goblin voice is just gonna be very high pitched, and he's just gonna yell like no, and like Spider-Man. Like it's not going. I don't think he's gonna be doing big dialogue scenes.
Bye,
so I
Spider-Man.
Think like, yeah. Or I hope he does his rendition of Itsy Bitsy Spider again. So. But and what do we think? Because I was just gonna ask you guys, are you kind of in the same camp me as far as McGuire and Garfield, that if they are in this, it will not be for like, what do you have like a screen time in mind, like a ballpark? Like mine is somewhere like 15 to 20. I would love like a half an hour, but
Wow.
like that's my kind of ballpark, is 15 to 20, that they come and help him do something in some mission, whether it's a battle, or I'm not sure if like, I hope they get them together, because I'm the same way with you, Brent, as far as like when you talk about Affleck and Keaton and whatnot. If you don't get that picture, like if you don't get that $1 billion picture of those three together and in a movie, it's like, I don't want it to be that he goes to Toby's world and he meets Toby and they fight, and then he goes to Andrew's world. I want them to all interlink at one point. That's my only one worry, is that it could be separate. So I hope that they're smart enough, and I think they are marketing wise, to go, no, we got to have a scene of all three of them together for at least like 5 minutes, not just some sort of cameo stuff and move on.
I think that if you're gonna get them on there, you're gonna need to have them have that quote unquote hero shot moment, because that's what
There's
we
a
never
couple
thought.
hero shots. You need one with the mask. You need one without the mask. You got to
Yes.
show that star power, and you got to do it both ways here.
So yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah. So, all right, we got our last news story. Not really news necessarily, but an interesting kind of dynamic. There's this. Hey, it's in your neck of the woods right now. Travis, this Avengers Station, an interactive exhibit that's been touring around. It was in Vegas. Now it's in Toronto. It was in New York City. And it basically kind of shows a lot of the props from the MCU and set pieces and things like that. Well, there's a certain area of the exhibit that's focusing on Thanos. And it was interesting because next to the exhibit, it states the following: Thanos' origin is said to be on Saturn's largest moon, Titan, making him a Titanian in nature. It is rumored, however, that Thanos is the last of his kind, of an ancient, highly sophisticated species known throughout the universe as the Eternals. So, thus, us with comic book knowledge, we know this at that point. We know he is descendant of the Eternals at that point. His parents are two Eternals named Alaris and Sui-san. I'll never know if I'm pronouncing that right. Oh well.
You will in February.
I will in February,
yeah,
but well, at that point, those characters are not in the movie. But who is Thena, who is played by Angelina Jolie, who is technically, that character is Thanos' cousin in the comics. So this is an interesting connection to bring in the Eternals to show that connection, what's been established. So the fact that this is a MCU tour going around making the statement up known, I think it's kind of cool that they are making a tip of the hat to what's already acknowledged in the comics.
I don't know why anything's touring right now, but that's cool.
They need to make money.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, Marvel and the Avengers, they need more money. Yeah, I'm sure they're really hurting. I think Thanos / Josh Brolin will appear in this movie. I do think, whether it's for a quick scene, a flashback, I think it's going to happen. I think just because it's just one of those moments, even if you look at something like Captain America, played by Loki, played by Tom Hiddleston, being in Thor Dark World, it just added to that. And it was that moment of gasping, like looking around, like, oh, look, he's in that. I think because this is as of right now, they are lower tier on the popularity list as far as names, as for the general audience, for sure. But even people like myself, I've not read any Eternals. I've heard them mention and seen certain characters, but they're more unknown to me than they are for probably anything. Even Guardians, I had some sort of touchstone. So I think a lot of people have that with Eternals. So I think they will add little nice Easter eggs and nuggets in there. And I think Thanos appearing in a scene or two will be in that. Nothing crucial to the plot, just kind of like, oh, cool, that's really awesome to see. And I think it's very easy to get Josh Brolin to come in, be in one of those green screen suits and rooms, and there you go. So I think you'll see him in this movie.
I don't. Maybe I think we get a reference to him. Maybe a young Thanos. You got Thena over there. It's like, oh, my family is the worst.
Baby Thanos.
But it's, baby Thanos, maybe tooling around with Cosmic Ghost Rider or something like that.
Darn right.
But I don't know. It feels really soon to go back to him. And so, Endgame comes out, then we had Spider-Man and Black Widow and then Eternals. All right. So he's going to be in the third movie after Endgame. It just feels really soon. So I don't know. I do think it's kind of funny how they're doing what the comics did. Thanos is going to get introduced, then the Eternals, and then they're going to retcon Thanos to be an Eternal. That's basically what they're doing here. It's what they did in the comics. That's what they're doing here. It seems like. I mean, maybe we don't call it a retcon because I'm sure they knew when they were doing Endgame and Infinity War what their plans were for him long term. I will say this: I hope we see him again. I like him. I just don't think I need it to be this soon. I mean, if he's in it, great. I'll be excited to see him reprise the role. But if he is, there's just so many questions as to how is he there that I don't know. It just feels early to me is all.
Yeah, I can agree. That was my only holdback. That's the same way as far as like when people are saying, oh, like Tony Stark might be in Black Widow. I thought, oh, it might be too soon. But that's why I thought if it was just even kind of like where you were talking about just showing Thena and then her passing by and just maybe a quick dialogue with him or something like that. But I agree with you as far as it could be too soon. But I've always said I think we will see him again. This is Disney, and I don't think that Marvel will make the same, I won't call it a mistake, but the same crutch as far as they love to lean on Darth Vader, and right away at Rogue One, Rebels, they leaned on him a lot of saying like, look who's back, look who we have. I think Thanos will at some point, whether it be a multiverse Thanos or, as I've always pointed out, our heroes when they were snapped, they were not dead, they were not gone, they were just away somewhere. Thanos is not dead, he's just away somewhere in some other universe.
He's in
All
the soul.
it takes
He's
is
in
for
the Soul Stone.
Exactly. All it takes is for Doctor Doom or somebody to get that and be like, you know what? Let's have a little fun. And you get Thanos out, and just like that. I've always said I picture one day an end credit scene of Thanos appearing, just like Avengers, but appearing again. And just I hopefully one day we'll get the full theaters again. I can hear that gasp of everybody just seeing him again and being like, and don't explain why he's back at anything, just seeing him and going, oh my goodness. Because you know the second you see Thanos, it's not good stuff. It's going to lead to nothing but bad things. So I do think we will for sure see Thanos. I don't know when. I don't know as far as like phases go and whatnot. I think at least after phase 5, but I do think we will see the Mad Time one day.
Yeah, I mean, as they say in comics, they're only dead until we come up with a better story to bring them back.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
So,
right.
and I'm with you, Brent. I don't foresee him being in Eternals outside of a name drop from one of them. Because if they're on Earth, they've obviously probably seen what has happened with depend at that point. So a simple name drop or something like that, that's all I would be expecting out of it at that point. So, but like I thought it was a cool thing to see some acknowledgement with that. And to your point, Travis, something's touring around and expecting people to go.
Well, what I was going to ask with Eternals is, so like we've heard like some plot synopsis, like they've been around for millennia and they've been maybe on Earth hiding and whatnot. The same way people go, hey, X-Men couldn't have been around in the MCU because they would have done something when the snap happened. What am I supposed to, like, I'm sure they will explain this, but what am I, as of right now, supposed to be thinking about the Eternals who were supposed to be around and then the snap happened and nothing? Like, I understand as far as if it was just an Earth problem, sure, but it's like this affected multiple planets, galaxies, and they didn't pop up at all during these 5 years to do anything. And I guess maybe they could have been snapped, but I hate that as like every single main cast member of the Eternals was. It's kind of like, I think it's like a little cheat in Spider-Man Far From Home, that like just everybody important to Peter's life was snapped, and like like everything pretty much was completely fine other than okay, Tony Stark's dead. But with Eternals, I feel like it is a bit more of an edgy area to be like, well, where were they? What were they doing in a time that was kind of crisis for just like the world, not even a planet?
Well, I know in Gaiman's run that he kind of rebooted them a little bit and brought them kind of there. A lot, most of them didn't know who they are.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the thing. They're
Yeah.
they're unaware. Something happened. I've got to reread it at that point. But from what I remember, they were unaware of who they are and what their abilities until someone basically
like one of them found out, and that like led him to find the others.
Kind of like a House of M kind of thing, when you got Wolverine, and then you got So that's how you can.
That works for me.
I foresee this. I foresee that arc possibly being on your list of comic book clubs in the future, actually, because the Eternals don't have that many runs. I still just want to put it on the record. I think the Eternals is. I'm less confident of this now. I used to swear that I thought Eternals would be the first time we would hear the word mutants. I really thought that would be the case. The only reason I'm less confident now is WandaVision's coming first. Originally, WandaVision was not going to be before Eternals when I said that.
Yeah. Do you think they'll? Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, it's just I still think there is a chance that and I know people might think this is weird to say, but just because stuff was rolling, I still think there's a chance we get WandaVision Eternals, and there's still no mention of mutants at all. Like they might not even be a factor in
Yeah.
any of them, And it's one of those that like I think so much because of COVID delaying stuff, we're thinking, oh, they've had it for a while, but it's like they still have these plans. And I've always said this before. Kevin Feige had a 5-year plan before the Fox purchase was official, right? It could have fell through. Universal could have got it. We could have got more Hulk roller coasters, which would have been fun. I wouldn't have wanted that, but like I would want movies, but the roller coasters are great. But I still think there's a chance we don't hear them in both. But yeah, where do you fall on that, Chris?
I've always had to do when you brought up the idea of hearing the idea of Eternals and X-Men. I kind of stretched my mind a little bit on that. I could see the possibility of it, but WandaVision just opened it up too much more as the more we kept on hearing and seeing things about it. But you're right. We may not get mutants in either one of them. It may be more of possibly a Doctor Strange kind of thing,
Well, I just feel like with WandaVision, it's like I feel like she's on a track where she's gonna bump into maybe Loki and stuff like that. But it's like it seems like whatever she has to do is more multiverse related, and that could lead to some sort of spin. But what her creating some with Vision and then going into Doctor Strange, I feel like it's as I've said before. I just don't know if it's the cause of the mutants yet. I just feel like she has her own stuff going on, and I don't know if I don't think they created this as like a jumping off point to the mutants. But hey, we're what a month and 16 days away from knowing, which is pretty exciting. So I'm or not even less than that, 14 days, a month and 14 days. So I'm just so happy we're getting some new MCU stuff in the near future.
What do you think about that, Brent?
I think Eternals was going to say mutants, and then I think we were going to find out in WandaVision that Loki's scepter didn't give her the powers to unlock the powers. So that was going to start the ball. People are going to start thinking, is she one of them? Is she an X-Man? Is she a mutant? And then people are going to start. People know who Quicksilver is because of the Fox movies. People will look up and find out, oh, she's their, Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, their siblings. He was an X-Men. He was a mutant in those movies. So I don't know. I feel like these are the two properties that are going to, like, if we were to, I think we've talked about before, like different paths of different groups of movies and properties that are going together. Black Widow, Hawkeye, Falcon and Winter Soldier seemingly to be on one. Doctor Strange, WandaVision, Loki, and I think now we can safely assume Spider-Man, whatever number 3 is, being another. I feel like we'll be able to track the mutants back to this path. And in hindsight, one of these properties, because they've certainly have time to change either of them. One of these properties, I think, is where we will say, okay, like that was the first real hint at the mutants coming.
I'm happy with this conversation. I just got a fact or fiction. So I had one. I have 3, but I had one. So I booted it to another time because I just created some now, but I'm going to save it for like half an hour from now. So stay tuned.
All right. Why don't you take us to our second ad break, and then we'll get into discussions and fact or fictions.
Yeah, exactly. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is an ad break. As I gave you the rundown before, you know what to expect. Check your audio. Just be aware of that. We don't get to pick the ads. So sometimes you get car ads. Sometimes lately I've been getting, what is it? Popeye ads. That's the best. That's one of the best. I'm sorry you guys in America are getting different ads, but like I'm getting, like I said, beef jerky, Popeye. I don't need a car, but I always need Popeyes because Popeyes is like, Popeyes is it's just too good. Those biscuits are way too good. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to hear an ad, and then we'll be right back with some discussions. And we're back. So we're back with we're talking about something that we were going to talk about last week, but there was just so much news we had to punt it. But gave us time to watch a few more episodes. But that's Marvel 616. It's came out I guess 2 weeks ago now.
Yeah, I think 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, sure. Something like that.
Yeah. Last month. I'll say last month confidently.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You are accurate.
But yeah, Chris, what do you think of the show so far? Because I know I've watched the first 2 and the Dan Slott episode, and we'll kind of talk about the episodes that we've seen together. But Chris, what have you seen? And what do you just think about the show so far?
Yeah, the same one. I was gonna watch the third one, but all this stuff about Dan Slott at that point, I said, all right, I gotta at least skip ahead and see this episode. But I really enjoyed it. I think my favorite one out of the ones I have watched, I'd seen, the Japanese Spider-Man, the Women of Marvel, and the Dan Slott, the Marvel Method, I think it's called. I really enjoyed Japanese Spider-Man. I thought that was such a fascinating and such a well done honoring of what they did. it was so cool seeing just how that all came about, what it did, how much of a precursor to this. I mean, they basically call it out that what they did on that show was a precursor to Super Sentai and Power Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
So I that's been the most fascinating one to me. You know, the ones that I've got left looking forward to, the action figure one, I'm definitely looking forward to kind of seeing that, and then the cosplayers. Those are two ones that I've kind of seen coming up that I'm kind of looking forward to.
Oh, you, Brent?
I've seen the ones I was most excited to see. I watched the first two, Japanese Spider-Man and then Higher, Further, Faster, the Women of Marvel one. Really enjoyed both of those. I had no idea that the Japanese Spider-Man led into, like, you can draw a line from that to Power Rangers. And I love the Power Rangers as a kid. I had no idea about that. And so I'm watching the Japanese Spider-Man one. I'm like, this looks like Power Rangers. Like, this looks like Super Sentai footage. And I'm like, is it? And I genuinely didn't know. And then they finally call it out. I basically, I thought I only had the time for one more. I ended up with the time for two more. So I did watch the third one, Amazing Artisans, about a couple of the Spanish artists, which I thought was really well done. Really enjoyed that. And then I watched the Dan Slott, The Marvel Method, because I wanted to see what everybody was freaking out for. Oh, absolutely nothing. That's what everybody was freaking out for. Oh my gosh. I kind of had a criticism of the Dan Slott one where I thought they made a point of hammering at home that, like, he's basically the only guy, or definitely the biggest guy, like the biggest name they have still using this method. I'm like, then why are they focused on just him? And like, let's tell you how comic books are made from like start to finish. And they kind of go through all that, but it's like, that only applies to his comic books, but all the other titles do it a little differently. But maybe that's why, because being the outlier is what makes it interesting. And it's called the Marvel Method. And I mean, they went all the way back with like, that's how Stan Lee was able to output so many books, because he wasn't doing detailed scripts of them all. I mean, people are like, oh, it made him made Slott like look so terrible to come across in this bad light. And like, did people not realize this whole thing was filmed? Like, so much of that was staged. I'm like, come on, guys. They're still telling you the idea of what's happening, but it's not like this is exactly what happened. And I will just tell you, like, at one point during the artist one, the third episode, there was a set that looked awfully similar to some of the Slott sets where Slott was behind his computer writing, and they showed him, one of the artists, at their table drawing. And I'm like, this is awfully similar. I'm like, no, it's not. It was good. It was interesting. I'm enjoying this overall documentary series. I just, man, the people whining about that one. People hate Dan Slott. I know I've given you my theories on why, but my God, just let it go, people. Peter Parker came back. Get over Superior.
He was hamming it up so much in that, just to point that out.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, everyone kept on slamming it, saying, I hate doing this with Dan. I love Dan at that point, but my gosh, it's so much more work.
They mentioned Christos Gage. He has written with him a ton, including a lot on Superior Spider-Man. They've co-wrote so much together, and Superior Spider-Man had like tie-in series that Gage wrote. It's like, I'm glad they included him, because Dan makes it so hard to work. Clearly not, because Gage, is working with him so much.
He's figured it out. He knows how to work with Dan.
They just hammed it up is all. They hammed it up. That's all they did. It was entertaining. I think people are ridiculous, but I like Dan Slott. I don't love all his work, but I love his Spider-Man. So, I mean, I was predisposed to like it anyway, I guess.
Yeah, for me, I that's the one I jumped to right away, because I didn't even know it had released it. And Chris told me, okay, good, I'm gonna watch some episodes. And then it was like the next day I had seen all this stuff about, this makes Marvel look so bad, and like people share clips like out of content. It's just like the picture of the guy being like, well, Dan's not really on time. But it's like when you don't have his cadence and you don't just see the scene prior, you're just like, yeah, sure, it seems like this guy's shitting on Dan Slott. But there's a few things. One, people go like, well, why does he still get to use this method? That is not just with comics, that's with every industry. If I go make a movie and I go to the studio, I go, and let's say it's my first time movie, I say, hey, I need this delayed by 3 months. They're gonna look at me and say, no, you don't. You're gonna put that out. Is Christopher Nolan making the same movie? He goes, hey, I need this delayed by 3 months. Oh, absolutely, Chris. You got whatever. We'll give you another 3 months on top of that. So it's like the same way when people go, oh, why does he still do this method? How does he get away with it? It's when you are an established name, and whether you like it or not, and you have a legacy and a track record of putting out good stuff, you do get a bit more leeway. And yeah, I'm with Brent, where I feel like lots of Dan Slott stuff is because of other situations, whether it's the Spider-Man stuff, whether it is, he was not too kind to the Zack Snyder reign of DC movies. But it's just like, I don't and you can quote tweet it and share me, see if there's something. I never saw anything where he would say, you know what, if you like these movies, you're gonna burn in hell. I just think he didn't like these movies and he really thought they were bad. And you know what? We all have that. You know, we all have those things. It's just like I'm very excited for the Snyder Cut. I don't think BVS is a good movie. I like the movie, but it's like just because I feel that way, people shouldn't go, well, you know, no, whatever he says on Marvel DC because I don't like his one opinion on this one movie is completely shot and it means nothing now. This is the
That's 90% of Twitter, so you know you just lost
100%.
that.
And I feel like Dan Slott on purpose plays up, like even the way that episode ends, he's like, make sure you pick a comic book and make sure it's Marvel. At the end of it, he walks away. It's like he's
I
definitely
love
poking.
that was so funny.
He's poking the bear, and we all do that from time to time, and it should be fun. It's the same way as like you can talk about whatever you want. So I thought the episode was good. It was interesting to see. I just loved even the artist talking about like, can we get rid of the gears of Iron Man 2020? Like, no. And he's like, okay. And he's like, and then I made them bigger. But
and he definitely did.
Yeah. Like, but this whole series honestly have been great. And I think that's the most underrated thing that Disney Plus has. Yes, it has a great catalog. Mandalorian is great. I'm assuming WandaVision, all the other MCU shows are at least going to be good to great. But what I've enjoyed so much is just even like when it launched was like the documentary about the Disney park, you know, like the 5 episodes of seeing Walt Disney in different eras.
The Imagineers,
seeing the handover in different, you know, once Walt passed away and then his brother and what didn't work and what did work. And even there's one episode about like the decade where they started to lose money and stuff. And they were like, yeah, this ride sucked and this didn't work and this broke. So I love this at one. We got the gallery with Mandalorian. We're getting that with WandaVision. I think they do such a good job with these. And same thing, my favorite one was the Higher, Further, Faster, because I had seen these names before and read these comic books, but to hear these actual stories, to hear the actual story of how Kamala Khan was created was fascinating to me. It was so cool that like she was just talking with one of her colleagues that can make decisions, and she was talking about her life and I couldn't date when I was this, and he comes back to the next day and you know, that'd be it. Like we don't have a lot of that, and it's just as simple as that. And I think it did a good thing of showing why diversity is important, because I know people talk about, forced diversity, this and that, but you still need that, because at one point she says that line of like, the reason we're focusing so much on women is because we've never focused on women. And that's the case for women and other people of different races and sexual orientation, that it is a time for, they talked about, you'd always just look at the books that got canceled in the 40s. All the white male superheroes, those continued, but everything else fell to the wayside, right? They went with what they sell. They had to be successful. And that's what I felt was good, that they would talk about the people in Marvel that were good and help them, but they still didn't shy away from like, yeah, they canceled all these women lines because they just wanted to go with what they thought would be the most successful. So they're not afraid to show times where they've made mistakes. They did that in Imagineers episode. So, but that was great to hear these certain stories of like the original Captain Marvel, right, when she was writing the Carol Danvers story, and like all the girls and the editor said, okay, can you change it to all the kids? And she's like, I'm not changing it to all the kids. Like, this is specifically a girls. And like, it was great to see all these stories and everything. So it's been phenomenal. I've watched, like I said, those 3. I really liked the first one of Japanese Spider-Man, because it was great to get like even the stuntman and the actor, and he talked about his experience with his dad passing away, like just little stuff. Like I love these type of things. Like there is a 9-hour documentary about Friday the 13th. I probably watched it about once a year, just because just these little details and seeing the cast and getting like, you know, just bringing back like Japanese Spider-Man girlfriend, just talk about like, was there a love issue? Like, well, we couldn't show any of it, but there was supposed to be, but even though some people thought they were brother and sister, like stuff that was just little things where it's like, just they didn't have to do that, but it's great. These episodes have almost been an hour, so it's just they put out great content with this stuff, and I can't wait to see more of this. I hope they do, whether it's WandaVision, their movies, whatever it is, just give me all the Disney Plus documentaries, because all of them I've seen have been fantastic.
Oh yeah, and I think the whole part of the show is the series is, and they could definitely create more of these, and I hope they do, is what Marvel has meant to the fans. Because every one of them has been a fan in some way, shape, or form at that point, whether it be just comics in general. I mean, like you said, it was just so cool seeing a lot of these names of famous female creators at Marvel, like Louise Simonson. Amazing. Next, I mean, her and her husband are just like some of the biggest names in comics. But I mean, people forget like how influential. I mean, she is huge in X-Men. I mean, she's done so much for that title at that point in her lifetime, and just getting them, hearing their stories is so cool. I'll plug another one, and I'm more amazed this is on Disney Plus, Waking Sleeping Beauty. If you've never seen that, it is an outstanding look at how Disney basically went bankrupt, and they were one picture away from belly up at that point, and talking about how Little Mermaid basically changed the entire direction of Disney animation at that point. It's really a fascinating look, and I'm just more amazed just because it is also a very scathing documentary and looking at what happened behind the scenes of Disney animation and bringing in Michael Eisner. So definitely
No,
plug that one.
that's good. I haven't watched that one, so I'll have to put that on the list.
Yeah.
I love all these, and that's the same thing with this Marvel 616. They haven't said anything, but I hope we see more down the line. And I hope because I think there's just many things to cover. I would love the same thing, Imaginaries, as far as comic books, to do a eras, covers the 60s and 70s, like talk about the changes. You're gonna have to get Rob Liefeld to sit down and talk, so that'll be interesting to see if that were to happen.
In a million years.
But well, you'd have to to be authentic, you would have to get him. Unfortunately, I say he's the fucking devil. I don't want to say like the Dan Slott thing, but he is the same thing of that category where I think he's even more worse than Dan Slott, where he's just come out and said some very controversial things where it's like, this isn't about his opinion. This is just like, you're taking shots at the wrong alley. But for the 90s, you need him there. You need Rob Liefeld to talk about big feet and that Captain America image with the chest, but all his other actual good work.
Little feet, little tiny pointy feet, big chest.
Yeah, and
leg belts on everything.
And I would
all the leg belts.
I would want an entire episode. Yeah, just a whole hour of leg belts.
That's the episode title, leg belts.
Yeah, and Brent's like, day one, I'm there. He skips work.
I'm there skipping work. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm in.
I would love an hour, whatever, 45 minutes on just the Ultimates, on how that created and why did they do that, and why the changes of, okay, why did you decide to introduce Gambit this way, or why did you take Reed in a villain? So many great things they could do with just the comics alone. I think they would wait because they wouldn't want to be boosting his ego. They'd wait till he's older. But I want one day a 616 on Kevin Feige. I want a full hour and a half of his you can talk about how he used to work for Richard Donner, and then how he worked on X-Men, and little stuff like Hugh Jackman and the hair. It was his idea that said, oh, you should make his hair like that because it's kind of like the comic books, getting people to talk about how he had this vision. Again, it's just hearing the picture. So there's just so many things with comics, with that, even if it's animation stuff. I don't know.
Yes.
It's just
please do some animation stuff.
Well, yeah, especially X-Men 90s would for sure get some sort of episode, but Spider-Man 90s deserves it as well. I always feel like that is it's kind of like the Superman for the Marvel. It's everyone does talk about X-Men a lot, but Spider-Man is they talk about, but it's always never on the same level. To me, it's on that same level as Batman and Superman and Justice League. It's phenomenal storytelling. So again, there's so many facets. So I hope this is not, and like Chris said, the fan community, I hope this isn't the end of it. Maybe we don't get it yearly, but I would every couple of years to get a full nice 8 episodes of Marvel 616, and the Lost and Found episode. I'm looking very forward to, because I'm a big fan of Paul Scheer and I've heard good things about that episode. So I'm very excited, and I want more. I really want more.
Oh yeah, definitely. When you're talking about the history behind the X-Men, get that new book, that The Art and the Making of X-Men. It's put out by the creators themselves. You get the amazing artwork, but also the awesome stories behind, from beginning to end, of that series. It is very, very good.
And yeah, Fanboy Clad said the same thing. As as much as I don't like Bendis, I want him to talk about Ultimate. And that's the same way. It's I'm a big fan of for WWE. I don't really watch much WWE wrestling anymore because I'm not a fan of their product, but I still have the network because they're constantly doing these documentaries, whether it's about current town or old town. Someone like The Undertaker, who stayed in character for 30 years, and now this year they can talk about it. There's sometimes I interview people where I go, oh, this guy's just a complete dick, and I don't like this guy on a personal level, but he was there at the time, or she was there. Same thing with Bendis, the same thing with Liefeld. You could not do an Ultimate episode and not get Bendis. You couldn't do that because it would just feel unearned. You'd feel like you're missing, unless somebody has passed away. You should try and get them and let bygones be bygone. You probably get everybody, but maybe if DC would ever do it, maybe not Alan Moore, because Alan Moore's just gonna be cranky the whole fucking episode and just talk about well, these movies all suck and you shouldn't be making them. It's I don't know, dude, you made the Killing Joke, go away. But
I'll put a spell on you, don't worry about it.
I just hate when he's just these things, but that's where you should get them. Doesn't matter your personal feelings. If they are there at the time and vital to the process or the product, they should be there.
Yeah,
I love the idea of a Bendis spot. But unlike Clay, who isn't a big fan of Bendis, I really do like most of his work. Not all of it. He's got some misses.
Me too.
Most of them are over at DC, but he's got some misses. But I I would love that. So an ultimate, like the thing on Ultimate Spider-Man, his Ultimate Spider-Man run is like my favorite Spider-Man run in general. And so I think getting him in, it would be fascinating to hear about that, to hear about Avengers Disassembled and that whole time period, and like when he was writing like 17 different Avengers titles. And I would love to see some of that stuff. And yeah, the 90s X-Men cartoon, it to do something, not just animation, not just that show, not just Spider-Man. And yes, I'm totally with you. Like they're right up there with Batman and Superman. It's like those four, that era will never be topped in comic book animation, in my opinion. But there's been other good shows. Give us something on. Just pick any of them. Ultimate Spider-Man, Hulk, Agents of Smash. I don't care. I'll watch any of it. I mean, just what were they going for there? Like talk about how they approached it. I mean, the Hulk, Agents of Smash, Avengers Assemble, Ultimate Spider-Man is all its own little universe. Like the voice actors all carry across the different shows. Like when Spider-Man shows up in one, it's all the same guy. Hulk shows up in one, it's all the same guy. I'd love to see him talk about some of that stuff. I mean, because they're doing for kids what the movies did for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And no, and like same thing with the way the Higher Further Fast run was, where it was about the women of Marvel and kind of transition into Captain Marvel / Miss Marvel. You could do that with Ultimate Spider-Man, as far as you start with the run, everything like that, and then the back half be about Miles and how he's become such a big character, right? And the other one I love is like I think this would need years, like maybe another 5 years, because it's a bit more graphic, but at some point even stuff, and it's tough because of like Perlmutter, but move those people out of the equation, and I would love them to do a talk about the era of Netflix Marvel. Again, I think that's further away because it's so close and we got to see what they do, but I'm talking about down the line. I love them to talk about, let's say they do completely, Charlie Cox doesn't come back, instant off, they just completely close it off, right? At some point 10 years from now, that's going to be how people got into Marvel, right? I know many people that watched Daredevil specifically because it wasn't, even if they couldn't connect to many comic book movies, it had like a Dexter almost procedural like thing, but it was this bigger budget and it's super. So everybody has their first, and lots of those shows, Jessica Jones, Daredevil, and Punisher, and Luke Cage actually too, that first season, I feel hold a high regard. So I feel like at some point in history, people are going to look back at it and say, yeah, it wasn't all great, but for a while, it felt like this renaissance of Marvel TV, especially when Daredevil hit. That to me was massive. I had people talking to me about Daredevil that weren't watching, maybe it fell out of the MCU, just like, this is great and this is Marvel, like, wow, this is fantastic. So I hope obviously we get more Charlie Cox, but I think again in the future these are little like eras that you can, and again, same thing with whether it's HBO Max, DC is the same thing, these huge companies. So I would love to see more of these topics tackled in the future. I hope it does happen.
You don't want Inhumans? You didn't mention Inhumans.
We want to say Inhumans, what happened.
I could do a separate like Marvel live action like TV one.
Actually, you know what? Inhumans could be interesting because that was originally a movie, and then Feige got moved out.
That's what I'm talking.
Feige's like, I'm out, cut it.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, come on, one of the most fascinating documentaries I've ever seen is that Superman Lives. What happened? That is an amazing documentary about a disaster of what happened with that movie, and now I really want to see Nick Cage as Superman.
Well, there's golden stuff of like movies that are, or TV shows that are bad, but like carry on this legacy. Obviously, Humans doesn't carry on like a great legacy as far as it's a cult classic, but just even talking about Marvel TV, or even if they get to the MCU and they ever did an MCU or the Infinity Saga one, I would want them to ask them that. I wouldn't want to be like, no, let's not talk about that. I want them to be like, why did you have Nick Fury say in the very first Iron Man, like, oh, there's mutants out there and stuff like that, when you knew you couldn't use these words? Was it still like a hope? Were you talking to people at the time? Like, Inhumans was something forced upon you. Actually, Inhumans alone could be its own topic. I don't know if they'd want to talk about that TV show as much as we would want them to, but I would, because like whatever, it's in the past, and maybe they'll do it after they do Inhumans in the movies and it's very successful, and that's when you can kind of look back on the failure. I feel like it's easier to look back. Same thing as that Disney Parks one. It's like it's easy to talk about them struggling and being almost going out of business, when it's like years later you're like the megathon known as Disney. You can look back like, oh yeah, we were really hurt, but now it's okay. So
yeah, we remember the thing. But our last quick discussion topic is we've all played Miles. We've all finished Miles. What do we all think?
Well, spoiler warning for people. Are we talking any spoilers?
Yeah,
right?
I think we can.
So if you haven't finished the game, we will talk about some spoilers. You can jump ahead. After this will be the last ad break,
about
and then we'll
5-10 minutes.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah, next hour and a half. No, it's you guys go ahead. Brent, what do you think?
I loved it. I mean, it's the second game that I finished everything on. If it was in the game, I finished it, platinumed it, and everything. I had it on the PS4, and it looked every bit as good to me as the first Spider-Man game did. I've heard some criticisms of, it felt like I was playing the same game because the swinging is similar and it's still through New York. And I'm like, oh, this is great because the swinging is similar, and I like that it's in New York. And the story I thought was really well done. And, we've seen now a few different interpretations of the origin for Miles, and it's different. Like, well, his origin in the comics is different from what they did in the movie, is different from what they did here, but they're all keeping the right spirit. They're all Miles and they're all Spider-Man. And I like the things that they changed here. I thought the voice acting I thought was great. I really enjoyed the friendship, let's call it, with Finn. It's we got Genki in this one, which is nice to see because he's we've sort of got him in the MCU with, they just call him Ned, but
you mean Hobgoblin?
Maybe. We'll see.
Oh boy, that's one pill I can't swallow. I don't know if I can buy that character jumping Hobgoblin, but
that's got Factor Fiction written all over it there, sir. But the story, I thought it was really great. I enjoyed the boss battles. I liked that it wasn't ridiculously long. Like, another criticism that people had was that it was relatively short game. And again, I'm like, well, for me, who, like, it's harder to find that time for this, because it's like, if I'm doing this and I'm not doing something with my kids, or I'm not doing something with my wife, or I'm not doing, something for the podcast, or one of the other million things I want to be doing, I liked it. As someone who's not a massive gamer who just devotes hours and hours every week, it worked really well for me. It was a great length. It was a great story. Yes, I want another Peter Parker game, but now I'm like, is this also going to get a follow-up? I'm like, what are the plans, Insomniac? Please just tell me what I can look forward to, because I need to play as more Peter. I need to play as more Miles. Same game, separate games. I want it all.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I really enjoyed it. I think the criticisms are what I kind of look at myself as saying, you're being a little hypocritical, don't you say? Saying, oh, it feels the same. Yeah, they do something different. You have to say, oh, they did something different at that point. You shouldn't have done it. It's kind of like, it's the great feeling of swinging through New York. I could be swinging through New York, maybe doing the crimes every once in a while and just doing those kind of, tricks he does in the air with it at that point to see how many extra points I can get with that. I thought I really enjoyed. They needed this game if they were going to bring in Miles for the next Spider-Man game, because we needed to flesh out this character in this universe. And I think they did an awesome job. I think that was the point of the game, to grow that character, to understand who he is, who his connection to his family. Because again, we know Miles from the comics. We know those connections at that point. This is connecting to a different generation, a different group of people who may have absolutely no exposure to Miles Morales at that point. Character development was great. I thought the kind of twist at that point, I thought the really cool, again, we're in spoilers thing. I thought it was really cool to see Kingpin have a little small cameo in this to say that, hey, yeah, I could see him breaking out at that point and still coming back in Spider-Man 2, having that influence. I think that's what they're dropping that in for. And that outstanding hero shot at the end with him and Peter. That is our signal. That is my telltale sign of Spider-Man 2 by Insomniac. We're going to get either you're going to alternate between playing the characters, or we're going to get, some pretty cool co-op with them at that point. But that is really cool. I would be completely also good with another standalone Miles game after this, because I think this proves that it's a big seller. People are going to like the character. I want to know more about it. I want to see him being a Spider-Man and just him on his own.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys say. As far as, I think it's pretty much a home run for what they were doing. They came. It's not like they previewed this as it's going to be as big as Spider-Man. They went up front. It's a smaller venture. It's this many hours roughly. Blah blah blah. But yeah, I kind of entrust Insomniac with everything they're doing between the first game and this game. I think they've done a great job. And that's thing you guys have both pointed out with Miles and his origin, that we were seeing a retelling of this, but there's things like in the movie we don't get much of him and his mom. His mom's there, but it's more about him and his dad in that movie, right? So it's fun to see that type of aspect. Yes, we see Genki, who is kind of like Ned, but still, for some people don't know that. I think the Finn connection was great, and it was cool because I mentioned this in my Geekverse one, but it's just that with the Spider-Man with Peter, we didn't get an origin story with him. We hear about later on, but this was getting an origin story in a sense with Miles Morales. Yes, the fight happened last game, but this was his first adventures, his first big boss, seeing people not trust him or be like, I'd rather the other Spider-Man help me out because he's more established and whatnot. So I think they did a great job all around. Voice acting was great, and I'm very excited for more. I'm very interested when the next one comes out. Yeah, Chris was right with that heroic shot. It's almost as good as the Batman heroic final heroic shot, so it was close second to it. It's just a joke, folks. Don't worry. But I got to ask you guys a question because we've talked about the second game and whatnot. And do you think, because I agree that Miles, they almost put him in a point where I feel like he could lead it. And do you think, I was almost going to make this fact or fiction, but I'll just work it in now. Do you think that there is a chance that, because my fear is that I think they will do the alternating back and forth. Do you think they could kill Peter Parker off in this game, a la what they've done in the past many iterations of Spider-Man? And that's why the end game, whatnot, that content, the city, you can play as Miles. And if we ever get a third Spider-Man, it's strictly Miles Morales. Because I think there's a good chance Peter doesn't make it out of that second game. We got Venom coming. We don't know if Norman will turn into Goblin. We got that end credit scene of obviously Harry's coming out of his tank, but we don't know what the Goblin status is. So what do you guys think about that?
I don't see them killing Peter yet. I think in this second game, particularly because it's a new animated Peter. I haven't gotten to know this Peter that well. I don't know who this Peter is necessarily, and I think the new animation is horrible with this Peter.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah. But maybe it's like a fungus; it'll grow on me. But I don't think this Peter has earned, in the sense of we've gotten to know him well enough to kind of say, oh, he's going to die. I don't want him to die in this one, maybe in a third one, but that's my biggest thing. It's just, we don't need to kill off Peter in order to give Miles his moment. If we can make it work in the comics, we can make it work here. I don't need Peter to die to have Miles have a spotlight. I just don't.
Yeah, I don't know if it's spotlight. I just mean that as a sense of like, for a story purpose and being an older Spider-Man, they could, because I feel like people, I don't know if they're not expecting it, but I feel like because Spider-Verse did put that in their mind a little bit, I still think it would be a shocking move to make to kill him off. And the good thing is Miles is there. Yeah, and I don't want them to do it just for shock, but we have, like, it's not like it's unknown Peter Parker dying in Miles's life, right? It happens quite a bit. We've seen it in a few iterations. So I feel, I don't know. I Brent, where are you on this?
In the Ultimate Comics, when Miles was introduced, Peter was killed, and then you find out that Miles had been bitten, and he basically is inspired by Peter's death to take up the mantle. In Spider-Verse, they sort of start going down that way by killing a Peter, but the main Peter of the movie, of the story, is with him the whole time. The whole time when Miles starts, I think you maybe see Miles like jump or something. Like the whole time, Peter B. Parker is there. In this one, Peter's just full on alive, and you've basically got sidekick partners going on. If they do, I think they're losing. If they kill him in this one, I think they're losing something. The first Spider-Man game, they kind of wanted to break things up from what you were doing as Spider-Man, and they sent you on what to me was the most boring part of the first game, the Mary Jane or the Miles pretend not to get caught sneaking around missions. Those, it's like, if I'm replaying the game and I just want to play, it's like, can I skip this, please?
They're brutal to play through again. Yeah.
It's like, no, it's like, okay, they're faster because I know what to do, but it's so still frustrating. They're just slow. This game didn't have any of that. Like nothing. There's a couple times, maybe one scene, maybe one thing at the end when you've got to like collect the different parts so you can open the door.
Yeah.
That's the closest thing to it. But even that was shorter than those. And didn't like, oh, I stepped in the wrong spot. I have to start all over every 20 seconds or whatever while you figure it out. I don't know. It's like, to me, right, they're set up so wonderfully to tell a Peter story. And then just when they want a side mission, slide you over to Miles. Now have a Miles story. And then, or maybe they're going to do the same thing where Miles is going to have a presence, but he's not going to be a playable character like Peter was here. So it'd be kind of funny if now Peter was getting people, oh, we wanted the other Spider-Man. We wanted the Brooklyn Spider-Man. That'd be kind of funny if we got some of that. I don't know. I still want a 2-player game. I still think it would be so much fun. I don't know how the mechanics of that would work, but you know what? I'm not the one making the game. I don't have to figure it out. I'm just telling you, I would shell a lot of money to have this thing. And like the Avengers game gives you like a good taste of like a lot of fun to play through and a lot of fun to just like team up with people, and like you're just going and you separate off and you come back together. They could do that in a game like this. And yeah, they'd have to figure out for like the main story beats of the main campaign. But the side stuff, like when Miles is off doing the weird radio thing, which was the weirdest thing, where he's trying to find the sounds of his uncles. That was by far the weirdest part of the game. When he's doing that stuff, Peter could be off chasing pigeons or something. You could do those things, and then you could circle back up and go together for the main story. Man, that would be so much fun.
You're telling me trying to find a water tower and find the exact same dripping sound as the uncle recorded wasn't fun? It was
weird. It was really weird. Yeah. Like most of the side missions, I'm like, yeah, I get it. It's fun. That's like the one side mission. I'm like, I'm glad there's only like 10 of these or whatever. I mean, I'm going to do them because I'm going to 100% the game. I mean, I made a point of just swinging really fast just so I could get that benchmark of, of the fast swinging and stuff. So it's like, I'm going to do this stupid sound thing, but it's just weird. Yeah. But I didn't feel that way about most of the side missions and most of the little side quests. And it's like, I don't know. I want more of it. I want more.
Oh yeah. Travis asked, because I already touched upon, what do you guys think about the end credit scene? Because obviously we got introduced to Kurt Connors now. He's helping good old Storm and Norm with these experiments. And now, which I thought at the first time when I had played the game, is the first time we get this interpretation. Actually, in Ultimate Spider-Man, because I'm watching it now, they actually had Harry get the Venom symbiote for a little while and have the suit. So it's been done like minorly around, but yeah,
the show. Yeah, comic when you said that, I'm like, he did. I'm trying to think back.
Yeah.
The show,
you gotta reread now. But yeah, no, in the show they give it to him. So what do you guys think about that? Because obviously that was set up last game about it. They never confirmed, of course, but it's looking like a very symbiote type of creature around him. And what do you guys think about maybe that twist of Harry having it instead of? And I've said this before, many things that I think they will for sure do. They've said, when they asked after the first game, why is there not Black Suit Spider-Man and why is there not Miles Spider-Man? The creator literally said, well, you save those for special occasions. I think you'll get a Black Suit Spider-Man the next game. I think that could lead to some Miles versing evil kind of Peter, like he's lost his way sort of deal, some fun boss fights. And I do think that they will make a very great exclusive PS5 that is Venom symbiote like with Spider-Man. That's my prediction, because Venom just sells. People love their Venom merch, and I feel like I can see a Venom symbiote PS5 as clear as day. I think it's gonna happen. And like I said, I think he will be a boss battle. I think that's one time where he'll switch over. That Peter's so far gone that Miles has to save the day, not killing him, but getting that suit off him, and maybe they end up fighting Venom at the end. Which
he's got that Venom. He's got the bioelectric.
What the PS5 costs? Yep. I'll just set that aside right now for that. That sounds amazing.
I really think that is a cool idea. With that whole walking around and seeing the landers on Mars at that point, or whatever planet they're talking about, when we kind of get that past looking. We get the bump in with Peter and Otto at that point. I think that is not just put there to say, hey, they kind of met earlier. Hey, this is kind of going on, and they didn't really know each other. No, that has other implications.
I stood there and listened to that whole conversation. I really like that.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. I mean, it just, if you haven't gotten to that point yet, it's really cool to listen to kind of all those, because again, everything
making
has
Miles
a meaning.
A creep just standing there listening to them, just right behind the Miles.
Exactly. Is that because no society is saying, "Hey kid, what are you doing here? Why are you butting in my conversation?"
Yeah.
But
why are you taking other people's projects?
Yeah. But I think that I think something's coming back from whatever this project that they were looking at that point. I think that's a very strong possibility.
Oh, Travis, so he's reversing mine, saying he could see Miles being taken over by the symbiote, and Peter has to already handle the symbiote. So maybe
that just happened in the comics recently. Yeah. Miles did just get taken in absolute carnage.
Yeah, so there's precedent for it. I'm just trying to think of the trajectory of. I guess the reason I had Miles doing it because it's a hero he's building, and I think there's more. He could have a scene with MJ. He could, you got to help Peter, stuff like that. Where Peter, of course, he could go to Miles's mom and they could meet and connect. But I feel like there's at least MJ and Miles have in the first game at least met a little bit. They have a starting of a relationship, so I just feel like it's a big thing for Miles to overcome. Of not only do you got to fight your mentor same way you could do for Peter, right? It's fighting his apprentice, but it's like this Spider-Man's been around longer, more powerful, maybe. I'm not sure, but hey, that could be the way you could do Miles. I hope they don't. They gotta be careful how they do that because you don't want people just to assume that they are using Miles as like a B villain or a villain. Because I don't know. Do you guys think we're gonna get Goblin in this next game as well? Because that's been the big debate of do you do Venom and Goblin at the same time? I thought they might, but I feel like they may save that for Spider-Man 3. So that's one of my reasons against my argument why I think Peter might survive. But I think you could just kind of go full Venom in this game and they could still just have Norman be Norman.
I think they might have Norman. Harry becomes Venom because I agree with those who think that's the symbiote on him. Harry becomes Venom. At the end of the game, Harry's defeated, and Norman has his Thanos moment of fine, I'll do it myself. And I think so. I kind of agree. I think the third game is when we go Green Goblin.
And that's the when that PS6 happens, the Green Goblin edition. That's when I like the Venom.
Start saving.
But yeah, that's what I want. And I hope it comes with a little hat too, like a little purple hat you can put on your thing.
Yes.
That's what I really want. So, Chris, what about you?
That's all right. Hit my mic at that point. That's shocking. Oh God. No, I mean, like I said, that's also a cool idea. But yeah, I think they've shown their kind of card a little bit at that point by Harry being Venom, which would be, again, we've seen it before in animation. Let's bring it back into video games. And heck, I just want to I want to swing around and get to be the symbiote for a little bit because that's just cool.
Oh yeah, and then you get to hear the voice actor record all these like angry lines, like "Oh, this power!" Like you're gonna get a bunch of generic stuff like that. Like I've never felt so good, but yeah, Travis Hines said in the chat, like, wouldn't Pierre know how to defeat him? And Fanboy Clay said the same thing I do. I'm assuming this is his first interaction with Venom. I don't think he's encountered Venom or the symbiote before, because yes, they did a lot of established films, but if you look at Doc Ock, that was the first time he had met him the last game, So, and obviously we have seen him before, but someone like Craven, we don't know if he would be a first-time villain. Mysterio is in that world, but he is going to be the first time for us. So I think, and same thing with Kirk Connors. I don't know if he's fought the Lizard yet. So they had him aged into like 5 or 8 years of his career, but there's still villains that have not popped up yet. So I think they'll stick with that. 8 years. So yeah. So I think they'll stick with that with Venom because I think Venom is something that people like to tackle. They love that storyline, and I think that'd be a lot of background information if he's already fought Venom and Eddie Brock, but maybe that's how they got the symbiote, right? So you never know.
Yeah. So
did you notice the little like motif they did with the drinking as Spider-Man throughout the game? Early on, Peter is upside down. He's drinking, and Miles is like, "How are you doing that?" Later in one of the cutscenes, Miles tries it and he spills it all over himself. And then at the end, after he's all confident and you've leveled him up and everything, he's able to drink out of that coffee cup.
Yeah, that was very nice.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was good. We all enjoyed the game. Played if you haven't. Obviously, we spoiled some stuff, but I'm sure most people that were listening to that have played the game or they don't care. So we're going to throw to our final ad break here. We got the results from last week. We got Fact or Fiction. We got Comic Book Club. So our last ad break is going to be happening right now, and then we will be back. We're back. So I will pull up the results for last week. So we had a couple of them. It was Chris's turn. So he threw up the 3. Come on now. Where are you? There we go. So last week, Jessica Jones will make her MCU debut in a Captain Marvel film. Fact, 58%, 42 fiction. So very close. Brent, where were you on that one?
I'm going to go with fiction. I think it's one. I think it's going to be quite a while before we see Jessica Jones. Daredevil, I think, is sooner than later. Jessica Jones, I think, is going to be on the shelf a bit longer. But when she does finally show up, I'm betting it's going to be more related to a Heroes for Hire property.
And then this one is just for you, Brent. Disney Plus will greenlight a Nova Corps series in the next 7 years. Next 7 years, it was. Sorry, I didn't even give the results. I'm a bad poll taker. I guess I was I haven't had enough on the polls. Sorry. Fact 62%, 38% fiction. So people again going with fact on that one. Brent, where were you? I know you love Nova. So
I love Nova.
Yep.
Marvel's Green Lantern, the Green Lantern light, absolutely. If you just said a property, I would have said, yeah, absolutely, that's happening. I just think it's more likely to be a movie. I think it's less likely to be Disney Plus. So I'm going to go with fiction only because of the Disney Plus qualifier.
Okay. And then the last one, the first Fantastic Four villain or main villain will not be Doctor Doom, but Annihilus. It was 50-50. Fact, fiction is tied right down the middle. Brent, what were you thinking? I went with fact last week, but I was kind of caught up by the Annihilus thing because it was specific, so it's tough. But clearly the audience thought the same thing. It was a tough call.
Fiction. I do think it's going to be Doom. Annihilus, yes,
really?
Please. Can we do Annihilation, please? Annihilation, yeah, lots of Nova in that.
Working in for the sequel.
Not Annihilation Scourge though, which I recently read. You can skip that part. We've seen Doctor Doom, but only kind of, right? We've only kind of seen that. We've seen Doctor Doom in name.
Did we really?
I mean, if this was about the X-Men, I could see them holding off on Magneto because we just had a great Magneto. We just had a couple great Magnetos. We didn't really have a great couple Dr. Dooms. We just had a couple.
Don't shame Julian McMahon. It was not his fault.
I didn't necessarily say it was his fault, but the end product is what the end product was. And I do think that they're going to go Doom. I do think that's going to happen. So Annihilus eventually, sure. The other side of it is we just sort of had this massive cosmic thing of this being coming from somewhere else. Granted, this was Thanos from the past or other planets coming, and now they're going to just have the Annihilation Swarm with all the bugs. They're going to look just like the Outriders, so I guess they can reuse all those CGI models. Let's hold off on Annihilus for now. I definitely love the idea of using him, but
we need to just wipe out New York again and again and again. Let's just focus on New York.
I mean, it is Marvel.
Okay, so it's my turn. So yeah, I've actually banked a couple in this episode, so it's good. So I will. Which one do I want to go with first? So he was just mentioned Magneto, and we talked about him a little bit earlier in the sense of his daughter. So I want to say that fact or fiction, Magneto will be retconned to be Scarlet Witch's and Pietro's, but Scarlet Witch's specifically father in the MCU because we've talked about Well, so the way I'm thinking in Avengers Age of Ultron, I guess she never said my dad was a guy that could move metal and stuff, but I took it as they were normal, civilians. I think, right? That's the way. So, okay, I'll just say that Magneto will be her father in the MCU. That's what I'll say.
I'll go fiction. I don't. I'm good with her not necessarily having that connection. I'm fine. It's not, if they end up doing it, great, but it's never been one that says, "Oh, she has to be." It's always been. It's been back and forth in the comics so many times. I don't even know if at this point is she even related anymore.
That changes every other week.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's not as big of a deal as it used to be. When it was firmly, and then House of M made it so murky at that point. I don't even care anymore.
But you got to remember, the last time they made it less of a big deal was when Marvel was trying to pretend the Inhumans were going to be the New Mutants.
Yes, that's what I was about to say.
True at that point.
Now in House of X, he had referred to her as his daughter and stuff like that, right? Which is kind of the common current.
Yeah, we don't talk about those years. Those years were just awful at that point. Oh, come on.
I'm gonna say fact. Yes, I think Magneto will be Wanda's father. I don't necessarily think she will know right away, but she will eventually find out. I mean, maybe it'll go a little soap opera. Oh my gosh, I've been your father this whole time. Maybe it'll go soap opera-ish on it, but yes, I do think we will find that out.
I think I'm very close on this one because I think it also has to do with what happens with Quicksilver in the show, and if we see him again or he's brought back, whether it's whatever version of Quicksilver. I'll say fact just because I always said MCU likes to do things different, and that's one thing that really bugged me. I've said many times about the Fox movies that they literally set up. They served the whole Quicksilver Magneto storyline, and they just kind of refused to touch it and do anything. And I think it's still, if you look at the Dark Phoenix, some that is like, okay, we've done that a lot, we're gonna put that on ice. Where this dynamic of, again, Quicksilver might be dead, so that's kind of half the equation, but still, Magneto's other kids out there. But I think that is the untapped potential of, like, if you bring a Magneto, how you make him a little bit different. And they only touched on him having kids in the Fox universe. This could be something completely different. And I think maybe if we meet Magneto, he could be on enemy lines, and we have that touchstone of that's my father, pretty much doing what they were going to try and do with Quicksilver, but actually do it this time. So I'll say fact, but I'm not that confident on it. So let's see. Brie Larson will share a scene with Kamala Khan in the Disney Plus TV show. She'll not be in it, not new scenes. She will literally physically have a scene with Kamala Khan.
This season or next season?
This season. First season of the gate.
I'll say fact. That's a fact. I think it would be, they've done a lot with that, just, the whole idea of the character at that point. I could see that possibly being a end credits, for maybe the season finale or something. I see it very much at the end. At that point, I see maybe little images, obviously in her room or on TV, but yeah, physically together, sharing that moment. I see that as the season finale.
I'll go fact. That's got credit scene for the whole series written all over it. The other possibility would be if Kamala had, like, she lost a battle. She's down on her luck. She wants to quit, and she runs into Carol. And, like, Carol finds her or something, gives her the pep talk, and then sends her on her way into the final whatever battle is.
Don't die, kid.
Go get him. Go get him, champ.
I'm off to the Kree Skull war right now. They really need me. Sorry.
No, you have that Captain America. Hey, I brought a friend with me.
Oh yeah.
But the credit scene, that is more likely. Follow it up with like a Ms. Marvel will return, and then we'll find out she's going to be in Captain Marvel 2.
Very nice. Yes, that's the tough thing of, like, I'm just trying to place of, do they save the meeting for the movie or not? Because I don't know if they do that setup of she's going to be, because they've already said she'll be in Captain Marvel 2, but do they do that physically in the show? Or is it just something we kind of learn by posters and trailers? I'll be contrarian. I'll say fiction just for the hell of it. I think that there's a chance.
With no reason. I'm just going to be a jerk about it.
I have a reason. Like I said, I think they might want to save the meeting for the big screen. Have that big, you build it up, and then when I think Brie Larson could film scenes for this show, but not interacting with Kamala Khan, like her in action and her seeing her on the news or something like that, or her being interviewed by news people and hopefully not having a CGI fake mustache gone. I think that you could have
her getting punched by Thanos.
Well, exactly, or she's at the hospital, it really hurt, and that's the only scene she's in. But no.
They could do what they did at the end of Captain Marvel when she first showed up meeting the Avengers. She walks in, where's Fury, and that's it. And you don't actually see the first interaction beyond that. She could just walk in and say, "Hi, I'm Carol," and then it cuts.
And I like that idea. That's like, putting that scene just to say, just that hint, she's going to be in Captain Marvel 2. I mean, that's the selling point. Not anything you need to sell Captain Marvel 2 to audiences, but it's just getting a few more extra people in the seats, when COVID's over.
So my question is, this isn't the fact or fiction, but whatever, I'm just going to ask it. Is Carol Danvers going to have her short hair or long hair again? Because the short hair was a wig. And I feel like, no, hang on. No. Francis laughing.
The people want to know.
I want to know about the hair because I don't have it right now.
Wait, no. Wait a second.
He's got hair envy.
Wait a second. Yeah, I do. But wait a second. It was a big deal. I was in that theater, and all the comic book fans, when Carol Danvers popped up on that screen with short hair, everybody looked at each other. Oh my God, she has the short hair. She has the short. And everybody before the movie was like, "When are you gonna be short hair? When are you gonna be short hair?" And Brie Larson's like, "It's gonna happen one day." So I feel like the hairstyle of Brie Larson / Captain Marvel is very important. So, but my question was because like that first in Endgame, it was a wig. So I feel like in her next movie, I feel like in her next movie, she's not going to do a whole wig for the whole shoot, right? So either Brie Larson's going to physically cut her hair, or they're going to have her grow it out again. What say you? I know you guys care so much about this, but what say you? Is she going to be back to the original hair and have long hair, or is she short?
I don't care.
People,
no, I'll say it, but I mean, It's kind of like the whole, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I don't care who shot first, Greedo or Han. I don't. Even Harrison Ford doesn't care at that
See,
point.
I disagree. As Brent, you are the same as me. That Flash DCU suit is god awful in my opinion. Looks
Yes.
matter, and for
I'm with you
some
on that.
people,
No.
Back in.
That's
not the same thing as
that's
the
not
hair.
the
though.
same
it is.
thing as the hair. No,
it is. No, it
No,
is 100%. No.
I'm-
Let me
No,
finish.
because she looked good both ways. That
Yes,
that suit is
yeah.
horrible.
No. But I'm saying that some people prefer the short hair. Some people like that Captain Marvel look of the short hair. It's more stylized. It's more unique. It sets her aside. So I guarantee you there are some people out here that go, if they see her with long hair, they're going to go, oh, like I really didn't want her to have long hair again because that's the look, right? It's like if Batman's black or blue, there's some people that go, I don't like him being in the blue costume.
Forget Carol.
Yeah.
What's Thor's hair gonna look like?
It's gonna be short. Chris Hemsworth's not wearing that wig again. He's not. That's the main reason.
And there's no more Bro Thor
I don't know.
anymore. He is bulked
don't
up.
care. I don't like. Nobody
Wow.
asked this question about anyone else. What kind of hair is she gonna have?
Because
The-
it was
the
a
real-
big change. It was
the
a
real-
massive change. And
the
it's,
real
it's
question
vital
is-
to her character.
Yeah,
Okay, it's not
her
vital,
look,
but like
but
it's
they've
vital to the
done
look.
it. Her character is a bit more than her hair. Watch out, you're gonna get yourself in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It-
exactly.
Her mask. That's what I want to see more of. The helmet piece.
Mhm.
Like
Yes.
I love the look
That
of
is
that's
cool.
the part I want to see more of. And I love it in the comics and you hardly ever see it. And I loved it in the movie and you don't see it that often. That's the part, that's the headwear that I am concerned with. I don't really
Thank you,
care about her
Fanboy Clay.
hairstyle.
Fanboy Clay said hair is part of the costume. Absolutely, it is. That's my point. I'm not saying it's vital to her character and
Well,
vital
you
to her life,
did.
but it's like I did. I know, but I meant like vital for just the costume because it is a different type of style. It looks different in the mask. It is, and I promise you, watch it higher, further, faster episode, I guarantee you those cosplayers are arguing about which style they like more, just like we all do, right?
That's fair. I'm just saying, like me personally, I don't care. I don't think that people who do
I
care,
didn't
like
ask
yourself
if you
and
cared. I
others,
just asked what if it would be long or short. I was
it's gonna be short. I'm fine with it short. You happy? Short.
You need to
I'm-
put this out as a fact or fiction. I want to
am.
hear
I'm-
results. I want
I'm
results.
putting it as a poll. Last week it didn't help. I put out the stupid eggnog poll, 50-50.
Ah!
Thanks, tweeters and viewers. No help whatsoever. But
Nope. Exactly at that
Eh,
point.
I don't.
Hairgate.
I don't
Hairgate.
care.
We'll find out. Tune in next week. I'm putting it out there.
I just want
we
to see
talk-
more of Captain Marvel. Whatever.
Yes.
Me too. She was great. I loved.
I even forgot what the darn question was that you had now at this point.
Here's if she's sharing a scene with Brie or Miss
Are
Marvel.
we gonna
So,
see
and
a
then-
scene of her getting a haircut? I think that's what it was.
That's the scene with her and Kamala. They're both getting some haircuts, you know.
So we talked about him earlier. Obviously, it was trending this week with the hashtag Save Daredevil. The rights were back. So I want to know, when Daredevil's in the MCU, will he have long hair or sure? No, I'm joking.
Shut up.
When he will Daredevil debut in the MCU before any members of Fantastic Four, X-Men?
Or the
Mm,
X-Men?
Yep.
Or the
Fantastic
X-Men?
Four or X-Men. Yeah.
Oh.
The reason I asked this is because we talked about Spider-Man before, we've talked about Moon Knight. There's a bit more She-Hulk. There's a bit more New York-based heroes coming where you could easily at She-Hulk, the same way the Miss Marvel end credit is, I could easily see the announcement of Daredevil actor, whether it's Charlie Cox. Oh, I'd love a She-Hulk end credit scene. Imagine that if she bumped into Charlie Cox and that was a confirmation. But even then, of just like her meeting a lawyer and like, hi, I'm Matt Murdock. And that's just like, oh, he's there. I just feel, and that's why I'm revealing my cards, it's fact as far as right now, Moon Knight, She-Hulk, New York-based characters, you could add them in. We don't know where Hawkeye is. I don't think he's coming there, but you could even get just a debut of, Daredevil / Matt Murdock. He doesn't have to be in the costume, but the character of the Devils of Hell Kitchen will debut before them. And that's why I feel like it could be easier to see him just even a little bit before we see Reed Richards or James Howlett or Professor X. So that's my pitch for fact. And what say you?
Go for it, Brent.
I just want to know about his barber.
He's in
I
I
Hell's
want to
Kitchen.
know. Yeah.
And think
This
about
is
Luke
tough.
Cage. Lots of those episodes took place in a barber. Hair is very important in the MCU.
It is, ironically, with Luke Cage.
That's a
if
big
you-
set
If
piece.
you had just said the Fantastic Four, I would have already
Mhm.
said fiction. It's Fantastic Four or X-Men. That is an awful lot of iconic characters. But I guess in this case, the FF are really going to be one because we're not going to get introduced to Ben Grimm and no one else. You know, we're gonna get all of the FF together when we meet.
We're gonna get a 3-picture solo deal with Thing.
Oh,
wow.
like a picture with the
Bold.
3 of them, and then Invisible Woman was invisible. The X-Men. I'm gonna say fiction. Oh, God, but I don't feel good about it. I don't. I feel like I just flipped a coin or something. I have no physical money in front of me, but oh, this is gross.
That's why I
I like
added
the
them both.
She-Hulk idea. I like the She-Hulk idea. Like bumping into each other at court, like at the end of the credit scene, we're just gonna do all these great meetings in a credit scene, and that'd be the kind of thing that if they filmed it indoors, they totally could keep a secret.
100%. And I always thought you wouldn't have him in the series because I agree with people that you don't want. You already got Mark Ruffalo and like, oh, and we're also putting Matt Murdock. People like, okay, are you taking away from her? It's all this about introducing other characters, but that's why just the Nick Fury Iron Man end credit scene of him popping in there, meeting somebody, anything like that. Like we've heard it's gonna be a comedic show. Maybe your friend sets her up on a date and it's Matt Murdock. Like there's tons of ways Matt Murdock could be like it'd be a funny way to introduce him, but still like there's tons of way they could. Again, I'm just putting this in the universe. I'm much like you, Brent, when you said on Twitter and everybody else, where it's just like I don't think it's gonna be Cox, but man, I would if we're bringing all these other people back, like just do it. You know, like he's perfect for the role. He's a great guy. He loves the role. It's just like it's a character that enough people would be like, you just even ignore the Marvel Netflix. Just do the JK thing, you know. But
do the JK thing. They would get so much goodwill from keeping him. Just
100%.
him and Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin.
Yes.
And no offense to literally everybody else from the Defenders series, but people would be good with it.
Yes.
People would be good with it.
I will say fact. And my reason behind it is that it goes back to the Fox deal. They didn't know they were going to get those characters back necessarily. They already had Daredevil in the wheelhouse. They had Daredevil. It may not be, again, I know and MCU Netflix, sure, okay, maybe you're not connected, really.
Yeah.
But they can bring that in and have been working on all sorts of different ideas for a while without having to, okay, they had to wait for it to get out of Netflix. But they could play with the characters behind the scenes. They've had more time to play with that and develop ideas than they had with X-Men and Fantastic Four. And it's a singular character. He's got a rogues gallery. He's got supporting cast. He's got supporting characters. That's okay. You can easily bring in, to your point, him in an Easter egg end credit scene or somewhere else, and God willing, him in Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, even if it's Spider-Man 4, I want it to happen. But Chris, you're
did it twice.
Your mic is having problems. Third time's gonna be a charm. But yeah,
gotta make your editing more interesting tonight.
Fanboy K said he could totally see a backdoor pilot for Daredevil and She-Hulk. Maybe I don't know if it's gonna be backdoor pilot, but like you never know if
I don't
it
think you
hits
need
off.
to do a backdoor pilot for
No.
Daredevil.
No,
It's
you
an
really
established
don't.
property. You don't need to do. You don't.
Who's
need to
this
do a
Daredevil
pilot for that.
character?
Never heard of him.
And then Travis Hines says hairstyles and Matt Murdock being a matchmaker. What's going on here? I didn't mean a matchmaker in that sense. I just meant it like that's how you introduce him. It's like you could okay. Let me hear me out before you all throw a fucking hissy
You took
fit.
the bait. Why are you still talking about this?
Oh, because no. I'm not letting him get away with this. The whole series. Imagine Jennifer's friend, it's talking about, hey, I have a great guy for you. You guys mentioned like he's also a lawyer, but like every episode you get little thing like he's a great guy. Episode 4, oh, he's also a lawyer. Like you guys have so much in common, and our wheels would be spinning. And yeah, at first you'd be like, oh, what a lame way, but it would be something like Brent said.
And then
where
it
it's like
turns out to be Foggy Nelson.
Oh, please.
Avocado.
No. That would be a kick to the nuts. But like it would be like, again, you would just be happy to see Matt Murdock, and it would come in on you. The general audience wouldn't be thinking it. If the whole time they're like, hey, you have to meet a lawyer, even the general audience might be like, that might be Matt Murdock. But if it's like, I'm going to set you up with a guy and it's just Matt Murdock out of nowhere. I'm not trying to get us into like Nick Fury's cat eye range. I don't want to do that. But I'm just saying, like, if you want to surprise some people, and like same thing, filming a date scene, very easy to seclude.
Oh yeah, they could like go to a park and fight on a teeter-totter or something.
Oh no. It's about to rain.
I know, I can see you.
I love that movie.
I mean,
I'm not gonna
I love the idea. I love the idea.
Yeah.
Charlie Cox's Daredevil is fantastic. He is, I mean, he's the main person I want to see survive. Like I've said that Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool is like the one true loss I would feel if we never got anything else from the Fox X-Men again.
Mhm.
Cox's Daredevil is the biggest loss there. He's not the only one, but he's by far the biggest. John Berthold's Punisher. I'd love to see him back again as well.
Oh, absolutely.
I still, I don't know about,
He's still teetering. He's still.
I am.
He's
I
still
am
been
teetering.
thinking about
This
it.
is
You,
so
you and I
hard.
might have convinced him.
This is so hard. Like it, I mean, we're totally going to see him again, but then I'm just like, man, how good would that be to see Spider-Man and Daredevil fight the Kingpin? Like that's a movie I want. I want that movie so bad. I've wanted that movie since the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie. Just to be completely clear, I've wanted to see them in live action together since that movie. Come on, just my heart wants it to be true, but I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't. Not yet. I think, but then I talk myself into it because you're right. They didn't know the X-Men were coming, but they knew they were getting Daredevil back, and now they effectively have him earlier because they've delayed production on so many other different properties, so they could slot him in. Fine, whatever. It's fact. I'll go with it.
Boom,
Yes.
it's back. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you vote. I'm going to put those fact and fictions and the poll about Carol's hair because, yes, it is important. But, yes, those will be out there to vote. And if you have any, let us know next week. So we're going to get into Vision number 2. We started off last week with the new comic book club, so I hope people are reading along. Brent, did you read this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I reread it.
Okay, I saw the image. Just didn't want to make sure. I didn't want to throw it to you and then just dead airing. Oh, that was a mistake, Travis. Bad job. I'll let you lead. What do you think about actually? And two, what do you just think about? Obviously, no spoilers because some people might be reading it for the first time. But what do you feel about the series overall? Because we started last week, and what do you feel about the series overall, and then transition then to number 2 that we're on today?
For me, this is and I don't mean this to sound like the shot is going to. This is my favorite work of Tom King's. He's written several things. He's written others. I really liked his Mr. Miracle run over at DC. I haven't read that much of his Batman, so I can't comment there. But this book I think is fantastic, and the way the last book ended, the last issue ended, and then the lead up with here, and like just seeing how the Vision family deals with that. This whole series is just a fascinating one. And I'll be honest, when you guys started this, I was like, oh, I've read it before, so I'll follow along and I'll be good. And then I'm like, okay, I'll go ahead and reread these. Well, now I'm probably going to end up rereading the rest of them. And it's like, I got so many other books I haven't read yet that I need to read, or other books I need to reread for other specific things. And it's like, there's not that many more issues. I'll fit them in.
And
This is one issue a week. I think you can fit that one in.
It's so good.
And WandaVision's coming out, so gets you a little refresher of a little inspiration that they took from. So you got reason to do it.
It just like I'm looking at some of the pages now, and like like his daughter like cut in half and just saying mother. It's so creepy. But I mean, other than wondering like how long her hair is going to be at the rest of the series, I really do think that this series is just good. It's just like the writing in this is so impeccable. The art is so when I read it, it feels like a simple art style, but it works so well with this. Works so well with this story.
The hair is going to be a running thing from now on. But no, I agree. We talked about that last week. And even this episode or this issue, you get much more of what I was talking about last week, like these Desperate Housewives, like soap opera vibes of like what really did happen to the Grim Reaper. And you get this whole, like, this would be this thing in Desperate Housewives. I watched every single season where they bring up this whole elaborate story, but then you get that end panel of what's happened to poor Grim Reaper, and it's just great because the issue is pretty simple, to be honest. There's not many you would say like scenes in it. It's just kind of, I would say, like 3 set pieces of like the principal visit, the Vision's son going to school, and then the story about recounting what happened. But it's all kind of, it's like we talked about last week, it's all something's off, but it's all still kind of thrilling, even though not much is happening. Like I said, it's just Vision and his wife sitting on the couch talking about this. And I just love like the little, like, it buzzes. Excuse me? It buzzes his sword. Yes, you're right. It buzzes. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's just like, it's great because Vision, they do this good thing, I think, so far. And I think they do this a lot more as the series goes on, of he's likable, but you still, you get the sense of, not annoyance, but just he's still cold, and he still can sometimes, as much as he's advanced, as much as he's evolved, he still has those machinisms, and that's what that is Buzz's moment was, where he had to come in there and he had to just like say like, oh, by the way, like the sword, right? But like this this woman and this robot is telling this traumatic story about her kids being attacked, everything, but he's just still talking about the sword, and it's very like I've talked about last week. Stepford wise, like he's still at times unconnected to the universe, which is interesting because it's about him trying to connect even more to the universe by creating a family, something he had never had really, as far as what you would classify as his own people, his own breed in a sense. So yeah, a lot happens in this issue, but not at the same time. So it's an interesting one.
Yeah, I think it was, after the the big setup of the first issue and the shocking, kind of end of the other one. I think this was a good kind of intermission piece before we start getting into the deep at that point. welcome to the revelation. I really enjoyed kind of just everyone dealing with it. It's like Vision's wife is lying to him. That's interesting. At that point, why is that? What's going on with that? Besides the obvious, well, she doesn't want to tell the truth. It's like, why not? What is she so fearful of at that point? He's going to deactivate her and re-scramble her memory at that point. But the son dealing with what's going on again, as I said at the first issue, I'll say it again. This is a series dealing with identity and the sense of what does it mean to be who they are at that point, and rationalizing it. And until the the first time I read this, I said, oh my God, did he just kill that kid? Because the way he described what he was doing, I said, yeah, that kills someone. Did he just kill that
creepy.
kid?
So creepy.
And then he goes to white and pale.
Yeah. And so then you go to the principal's office. I was like, I'm trying to listen for, you go to the principal office that kills the kid. What school is this? And so, putting two together, he just knocked him out. But I love the line that Vision uses on the principal after he says, well, he'll take whatever consequence he gets. And he's like, I'm the Vision of the Avengers. I have saved this planet 37 times. Each day you live, each breath you take, each beat of your heart, each is due to my actions 37 times over. I was like, dang, Vision. I don't remember ever seeing that evil at that point, or that like just basically, I'm going to throw down and you're going to deal with it.
Well, and that's what I mean in this, and we'll get into it more, but like in this series, I feel like it's the closest, and not in a way they're trying to emulate or copy it, but it's the closest he is to like a Dr. Manhattan sort of character, where Dr. Manhattan is
True.
that, where he's very powerful, but he also is a dick, and not just because his dick is out all the time, just like he's just a complete asshole because he's losing his sense of emotionality. You can read that in the book. You get the Zack Snyder movie, the current, well, I guess current, it was only one season, but the last season of Watchmen, fantastic show. He has that just very cold side to him, and Vision has that with his wife and now with this principal. And it's just like, what is that principal to do? Because the principal, like I understand completely as far as why Vision is off put, because he's not calling his wife by his name, he's still referring them as robots. But this kid was nearly dead. He was strangled within literally an inch of his life, and it's just like, what am I supposed to do? But then he's made to feel puny as an ant by saying, yeah, you live because of me. And when he just says that 37 times over, it's just like demasculization in front of everybody. And it's just such a, but he can't do anything. And then we get that other blib that I love again that we got last week when it's like, oh, we met this couple and then their house burned down, they died. The same thing of like, if he could have done one more thing, he could have saved the world. And it's just like these little like, oh, something's coming, you don't know what it is, but something's on the way. And I love just these little blips that they put on these characters that are, at times seem just like a meaningless story or just kind of a scene, but no, there's more to it than that. So yeah, anything else?
I like that revelation at the end. Like, again, someone knows something.
Yes.
I think what this series does well is just when you say, okay, we know she's lying. We know that point, but now we know someone knows. Who knows? Why do they know? What do they want out of her at that point with sending her this video footage at that point? So
it's gonna be interesting. Well,
yeah,
we're gonna
the
talk about
the cliffhangers in this series. I mean, they really make you want to read the next one right away.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Yeah.
So she just gets that phone, drops it, and kind of expect her to like break it or shatter it or blast it or something. But no, she just drops it and freaks out.
And the fact that also like Vision, I'm a little surprised at that point, just saying, you're rather trusting. I'm not saying you have no reason not to be trusting, but I'd be like, so where is, Grim Reaper now?
He ran off, Chris. He ran off. He got away. She was too busy
He
with
saved
her kids.
he's saved the world 37 times, but he's never been on a murder mystery.
Hey, man.
Well, he doesn't know there's a murder to have.
No, he doesn't at that point, but I expect a little bit more, but that's okay.
He's also never been married to, but that's the thing where he might expect a little bit more because we talked about this last week of the sense that he created them. He probably might feel that she might not even have the power to lie to him, even though she has that ability.
I get that.
She might just feel I have to tell him everything, and he might feel, well, she has to tell me everything. So it's that kind of God complex where he can trust her for now, and we got a video to deal with, and it's not looking good for Virginia.
Nah, she'll be fine. They're fine. Totally fine.
Yeah, it'll work out. Yeah. Well, that was it. Volume 27 in the books.
Yep. Definitely. Well, thanks, Brent, for joining us this week.
Absolutely.
Yes, very much. It led to some good conversations, whether it was in-depth stuff or, a new rant that's going to be talked about for a while now with the great hair debate at Marvel Alliance. But
the factor of one that cares.
It is funny that this comes out after he shaves his head.
I know.
Fanboy Clay was on the side. Other people are going to care. I'm telling you, they're going to care. So
they'll care just to poke the bear, just to see get you keep on talking about
that's
it.
Fine.
So
poke me.
So send all your hair cutting memes and gifs to Travis B. Snell.
Yeah, after you send the Mephisto ones to Brent, and
That's
then
right.
we got to find out what we're going to send to Chris one day. What are we going to send you? We'll figure it out one day. We're gonna.
It's not that hard. It's not that hard. But the trouble is, at that point, it'll be like, yeah, I don't care.
We'll find something.
Oh yeah, you'll find something. I don't doubt it. So.
Again, Brent, thank you very much for joining us on this.
Definitely.
It's always a good time talking to you. Where can they find you and all the things you do on the interwebs?
I'm on Twitter at BrentTech Prime. Go there and you'll find everything else.
Yeah, and his link will be. You'll find him in our links of the show. His name will be there. Whatever.
Words are tough.
They are.
It is. It's very tough, just like hairstyles. My name is Travis B. Snell on Twitter. You can find me there. I'm here every Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever we record whatnot. And then I'm over at Geekverse Podcast, and then check out Geek Ultimate Alliance as well. And it's I hope everyone is staying safe in the winter. I know people got Christmas shopping and whatnot to do, but still stay safe out there. And I hope everyone is happy and healthy. And I hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving weekend that is over on the other side of the border. So, Chris, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Chris Balga. You can follow the show on Twitter at Marvel A Podcast, and email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance at GUA Pod Network. Feel free to, again, continue to tweet us, send the hair memes, send whatever. At this point,
I gotta ask Katie and Sarah too. They're definitely got to be on my side as well. I feel like it's essential to the costume.
Sure, I'm not doubting it's not essential.
Katie will have some hot takes on that. Katie will have a hair hot take for it.
Yeah, that she should be bald.
Yeah.
But yeah, ask us the questions. Ask us those other questions that we've never thought about and can become a new thing on the show. Why not?
Oh yeah, we'll take any random question.
Exactly. We'll continue to rate and review the podcast on an Apple Podcast or whatever your podcatcher choice may be. As always, thank you again, Brent. Thank you those that joined us for the live chat. Thank you all of you for listening. And as Stan the man would say, Excelsior, true believers.